A single father in a worn jacket. A ruthless CEO. One envelope that could destroy a $400 million deal. When Caleb Monroe walked into Sterling Harbor Capital with his daughter and a sealed envelope, he had 60 seconds before security would throw him out. What the boardroom didn't know was that the man they were about to humiliate held the legal power to burn their empire to the ground. Stay until the end to see how one piece of paper changed everything. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The revolving doors of Sterling Harbor Capital spun with the kind of weight that made promises. Glass, steel, marble veined with gold. Caleb Monroe pushed through them with Lily's small hand tucked inside his, and the city noise cut off like a guillotine blade. Inside, the silence had teeth. His jacket was wrong. He knew that the moment the lobby air hit him, too cold, too clean, scented with something that probably cost more per ounce than his monthly grocery bill. The fabric across his shoulders was thin enough that you could see the shape of the t-shirt underneath, and there was a coffee stain near the left pocket that he'd tried to scrub out that morning with dish soap and a dish rag. It hadn't worked. Lily had noticed it at breakfast and asked why Daddy's coat was dirty, and he told her it gave it character. Now, standing in this cathedral of capital, character felt like the wrong currency. "Daddy, it's so shiny," Lily whispered. She was 6. Her sneakers squeaked against the marble, pink with cartoon rabbits on the sides. One of the laces had come untied. "Yeah, baby, real shiny." The reception desk stretched 30 feet across the back wall like the bench in a courtroom. Behind it sat a woman whose hair was pulled so tight it looked painful. Her nameplate said Gabrielle, and her smile was the kind that didn't reach anywhere important. Caleb approached. Lily squeaked beside him. "Can I help you?" Gabrielle's eyes did a scan. Jacket, jeans, the little girl, back to the jacket. The smile thinned. "I need to see Vivian Hart." "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but Ms. Hart doesn't take walk-ins." The words came out smooth, practiced. She'd said them before, many times. Caleb shifted the envelope in his hand. Legal-sized, thick paper, sealed with red wax that had cracked a little during the subway ride. "It's about the Meridian deal. The signing today." Something changed in Gabrielle's face. Not much. A slight tightening around the mouth. "And you are?" "Caleb Monroe." She typed on her keyboard, eyes flicking across the screen. Waited. Typed again. "I don't see you on any vendor list. Are you a contractor?" "I'm a trustee." "A trustee?" "That's right." Gabrielle leaned back in her chair. The leather made a soft, expensive sound. "Sir, the Meridian signing is a closed session, board members and executive staff only. If you have business with Sterling Harbor, you'll need to schedule through the appropriate channels. I have documents that need to reach Vivian Hart before she signs anything." Caleb's voice stayed level, but something in his chest was starting to tighten. He'd known this wouldn't be easy. He'd known they'd try to brush him off. But standing here with Lily's hand in his, watching this woman look at him like he'd tracked mud across her perfect floor, the exhaustion of the last 72 hours started pressing down hard. "It's urgent." "I'm sure it is." Gabrielle picked up her phone, pressed a button. "Security to reception, please." "Wait." "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Lily tugged his hand. "Daddy?" "It's okay, sweetheart." He squeezed her fingers, looked back at Gabrielle. "Just let me explain. Security's on their way." 2 men in dark suits materialized from a door Caleb hadn't noticed. They moved like they'd done this before. Smooth, casual, but with a kind of readiness that made it clear they could stop being casual real quick if they needed to. The taller one had a scar through his left eyebrow. The other one had hands the size of catcher's mitts. "This gentleman was just leaving," Gabrielle said. Scarred eyebrow stepped forward. "Sir, I'm going to need you to come with me. I'm not trying to cause trouble." Caleb didn't move. "I just need 5 minutes with Vivian Hart." "Ms. Hart is in a private meeting." "I know, the Meridian signing. That's why I'm here." Catcher's mitts moved to Caleb's other side. They were boxing him in, casual but deliberate. Lily pressed closer to his leg. "Sir, let's make this easy. Listen to me." Caleb's voice got harder. "If Vivian Hart signs that deal without seeing what's in this envelope, she's going to lose everything. Sterling Harbor will be gutted. I'm trying to help her." Scarred eyebrow smiled. It wasn't friendly. I'm sure you are, but you're going to help her from outside the building. I have legal standing outside. Now. A hand landed on Caleb's shoulder, not rough yet, but firm. The pressure of it said the roughness was available if needed. Lily made a small sound. Caleb looked down. Her eyes were wide, scared. She'd seen him arrested once 2 years ago, when the cops had rolled up on him in the park because someone had called in a suspicious man near the playground. It had been nothing. Mistaken identity, wrong place, the usual machinery of assumption grinding through its gears, but Lily had watched them put him in cuffs, and she'd cried so hard she'd thrown up. They'd let him go 20 minutes later with an apology that sounded like it had been printed on a form, but Lily had nightmares for a month. She was remembering that now. He could see it. Okay, Caleb said quietly. Okay, we're going. He let them steer him toward the doors. Lily walked beside him, silent now, her hand gripping his so tight it hurt a little. The revolving doors loomed ahead. Outside, the city waited. Traffic, noise, the long subway ride back to the apartment where nothing would change and everything would stay broken. Then the elevator chimed. Caleb glanced back. The door slid open and a woman stepped out. She was tall, taller than she'd looked in the photos he'd found online. Mid-30s, dark hair pulled back in a way that made her cheekbones sharp, wearing a suit that probably cost what he made in 3 months. Her heels hit the marble with the kind of sound that made people's spines straighten. Vivian Hart. She was talking to someone, a man in a gray suit, balding, carrying a leather portfolio. They were mid-conversation, something about finalization timelines and regulatory approval. Her voice was clipped, efficient. She moved like someone who didn't waste steps. Caleb stopped walking. Scarred eyebrow's hand tightened on his shoulder. Sir, Vivian Hart! Caleb's voice cracked across the lobby like a whip. Everything stopped. Vivian turned. So did Graysuit. So did Gabrielle. So did a handful of other people who'd been crossing through the space, all of them freezing mid-step like someone had hit pause. Vivian's eyes found Caleb. Did the same scan Gabrielle had done. Jacket, jeans, Lily, envelope. Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her gaze. Calculation. Assessment. Who are you? Her voice carried. My name's Caleb Monroe. I need 2 minutes of your time. Ms. Hart, we're handling this, Scarred Eyebrow said. Vivian ignored him. She walked closer, heels clicking. Graysuit followed. She stopped 10 feet away, and Caleb could smell her perfume. Something subtle, probably French, the kind of scent that whispered instead of shouted. How did you get in here? She asked. I walked through the front door. Security should have stopped you. They're trying to now. Her eyes went to the envelope in his hand. What is that? Documents you need to see before you sign the Meridian deal. Something shifted in Vivian's face. Not much. A tightening around the eyes. The Meridian deal is none of your concern. It is, actually. And why would that be? Caleb met her gaze, held it. Because I'm a controlling trustee of the Monroe Family Trust, and according to the terms of the original acquisition agreement from 1987, any sale of assets valued over $50 million requires trustee approval. You're about to sell the Meridian Hospital Division for $400 million. Without my signature, that deal dies. Silence. Vivian stared at him. Graysuit's mouth had fallen open slightly. Gabrielle had stopped breathing. Then Vivian smiled. It was the coldest thing Caleb had ever seen. You're a trustee, she said softly. That's right. Of the Monroe Family Trust. Yes. And you came here dressed like that, with your daughter, to threaten me? I'm not threatening anyone. I'm trying to warn you. Vivian's smile widened. Security, call the police. What? You heard me. She looked at Scarred Eyebrow. This man is trespassing and attempting to interfere with a legally binding corporate transaction. I want him arrested. Ms. Hart, Graysuit started. Do it, Marcus. Her voice was ice. Caleb's pulse kicked. You need to listen to me. I don't need to do anything. Vivian stepped closer, close enough that he could see the tiny flecks of gold in her brown eyes. I've been running this company for 6 years. I've closed deals worth billions. I've sat across tables from men who'd eat you for breakfast and still have room for lunch. And you think you can walk in here with a cheap jacket and a sob story and shake me down? I'm not shaking you down. Then what do you call this? I call it trying to stop you from making the worst mistake of your life. Vivian's jaw tightened. For a second, just a second, something crossed her face that looked almost like doubt. Then it was gone, buried under layers of granite. Marcus, she said, not looking away from Caleb. Get him out of my building. Gray suit, Marcus, shifted uncomfortably. Vivian, maybe we should at least look at… No. But if there's any validity to his claim… There isn't. She finally broke eye contact with Caleb, turning to Marcus. This is a stall tactic. Someone trying to disrupt the signing, maybe a competitor, maybe just a lunatic. Either way, I'm not playing along. Scarred Eyebrow had his phone out now, talking low into it. Caleb caught the words police and trespassing and possible security threat. Lily was shaking. Daddy? She whispered. Caleb crouched down, still holding the envelope, putting himself at eye level with his daughter. Hey, it's okay. We're okay. They're being mean to you. Sometimes people are mean when they're scared. Is she scared? Caleb glanced up at Vivian. She was watching them with an expression he couldn't read. Yeah, baby, I think she is. Sir, you need to stand up. Catcher's mitts was back, looming. Caleb straightened, kept Lily close. Just look at the documents. That's all I'm asking. I don't take orders from you. Vivian's voice was flat. It's not an order. It's a request. Denied. There's fraud buried in this deal. The hospital division is being sold for a fraction of what it's worth, and your CFO knows it. Derek Voss has a relationship with the buyer that he hasn't disclosed. If you sign this, you're not just losing money. You're opening Sterling Harbor up to lawsuits, regulatory investigation, maybe criminal charges. Vivian's expression didn't change, but something in her posture went rigid. You're accusing Derek of fraud. I'm saying look at the documents. Based on what evidence? It's in the envelope, which could contain anything. Blank pages, fabricated records, pictures of your last vacation. She crossed her arms. You think I'm stupid enough to fall for this? I think you're smart enough to cover your bases. My bases are covered. Are they? Caleb's voice got quieter, more intense. You've spent 6 years building Sterling Harbor into what it is. You've worked 80-hour weeks, sacrificed relationships, sleep, probably your health. You've made this company your life, and now you're going to throw it all away because you're too proud to spend 5 minutes reading an envelope? Vivian's eyes flashed. You don't know anything about me. I know you're about to lose everything. Get him out of here. Hands grabbed Caleb's arms, Scarred Eyebrow on one side, Catcher's mitts on the other. They weren't gentle this time. Lily yelped as she was jostled. Don't touch her! Caleb yanked his arm free, putting himself between Lily and the guards. The envelope fell, hit the marble with a slap. Daddy! I'm right here, baby. I'm right here. Sir, do not resist. Scarred Eyebrow's voice was hard now. I'm not… Just don't touch my daughter. Then come quietly. Caleb looked at Vivian. She was standing there, arms still crossed, watching this play out with the detachment of someone observing a mildly interesting science experiment. Behind her, Marcus had the decency to look uncomfortable. Gabrielle was filming on her phone. You're making a mistake, Caleb said. Vivian said nothing. The lobby doors opened. 2 NYPD officers walked in, hands resting casually on their belts. They scanned the scene. Security guards restraining a man in a cheap jacket, little girl crying, well-dressed woman watching with cold eyes. They'd seen this before. They knew which side they were on. What's the situation? The first cop asked. He was older, gray at the temples, with the kind of tired eyes that said he'd worked too many shifts. This man is trespassing, Vivian said. I want him removed and charged. The cop looked at Caleb. That true? I'm here on legitimate business. Do you have an appointment? No, but then you're trespassing. The cop stepped forward. Sir, I need you to put your hands behind your back. I have documents that prove hands behind your back. Now. Caleb's chest was tight. His vision was narrowing at the edges. Lily was crying, the sound high and thin and breaking his heart into smaller and smaller pieces. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He'd spent 3 days tracking down the paperwork. 3 days of diving through old probate records, calling lawyers who barely remembered his father's name, piecing together a history that everyone had tried to bury. The Monroe Family Trust had been established 40 years ago by his grandfather, Charles Monroe, who'd made his fortune in shipping and real estate before the markets crashed and took most of it with them. By the time Caleb's father inherited control, there was barely anything left except the trust agreement itself and a few scattered assets that nobody wanted, including a 30% stake in the company that eventually became Sterling Harbor Capital. Caleb hadn't known about it until his father died, hadn't known about any of it. The trust, the stake, the legal mechanisms that gave the Monroe family veto power over major asset sales. His father had been a drunk and a gambler who'd burned through what little money remained and died broke in a studio apartment in Queens, but the trust had survived. And when Caleb's father passed, control transferred to Caleb, which meant Caleb Monroe, single dad, part-time bookkeeper, owner of exactly one suit that didn't fit right, had the legal authority to stop a $400 million deal. He tried calling Sterling Harbor, tried sending emails, tried reaching out to the legal department, to Vivian Hart's office, to anyone who would listen. Nothing. Every message disappeared into the void. Every call got redirected to voicemail. So he'd come here, in person, with Lily, because he couldn't afford a babysitter and Mrs. Chen next door was visiting her sister in Boston. He'd come to warn them, and they were going to arrest him for it. "Sir, hands now!" The cop's voice was harder. Caleb looked at the envelope on the floor, looked at Vivian Hart standing there like a statue carved from ambition and ice. Then he knelt. The marble was cold through his jeans. His knees hit hard enough to hurt. He put his hands behind his back, felt the cuffs close around his wrists with a series of clicks that sounded too loud in the silent lobby. Lily was sobbing now. "Daddy, no, Daddy. It's okay, baby. It's okay. Don't take my daddy." One of the cops, the younger one with red hair and freckles, crouched down near Lily. His voice was gentle. "Hey, sweetheart. What's your name?" "Lily. That's a pretty name. Is there someone we can call? Your mom, maybe?" "My mommy's gone." Lily's voice was barely a whisper. The cop glanced at his partner. Something unspoken passed between them. The older cop's jaw tightened. "Any other family?" Red Hair asked. Lily shook her head. "Neighbors? Friends?" Another head shake. Caleb's throat was burning. "Her babysitter's number is in my phone, Mrs. Chen. She can—" "We'll figure it out," the older cop said. His voice was neutral, professional, but there was an edge of something underneath it. Maybe pity? Maybe just exhaustion at having to deal with another broken situation in a city full of them. They pulled Caleb to his feet, started walking him toward the doors. Lily tried to follow, but Red Hair gently held her back. "Daddy!" "I love you, Lily. Be brave, okay? Be brave for me." "I want to go with you." "You can't, baby. But I'll see you soon. I promise." The revolving doors swallowed him. Outside, the city was bright and loud and utterly indifferent. A police cruiser sat at the curb, lights off, but engine running. They walked him toward it. Inside the lobby, through the glass, Caleb could see Vivian Hart. She was picking up the envelope, turning it over in her hands. Her expression was unreadable. Then she handed it to Marcus and walked toward the elevators without looking back. The older cop opened the cruiser door, put a hand on Caleb's head to guide him into the back seat. The leather was cracked and smelled like sweat and desperation. The partition between front and back was scratched with initials and obscenities. "Watch your head," the cop said. Caleb ducked inside. The door closed with a heavy thunk that sounded final. Through the window, he could see Lily pressed against the lobby glass, her small hands flat against it, her face streaked with tears. Red Hair was talking to her, probably trying to calm her down, but she wasn't looking at him. She was looking at Caleb. Their eyes met. And in that moment, Caleb made a decision. He was done being polite, done trying to play by rules that were designed to keep people like him on the outside looking in. Done letting people like Vivian Hart look at him and see nothing worth their time. If they wanted a fight, he'd give them one. The cruiser pulled away from the curb. Lily's face got smaller in the window, then disappeared as they turned the corner. Inside Sterling Harbor Capital, Vivian Hart stepped into the elevator with Marcus at her side. The doors closed. The car began to rise. You really think that was necessary? Marcus asked quietly. Vivian didn't look at him. Yes. He had a daughter with him. I noticed. She was terrified. Not my problem. Marcus shifted his weight. The portfolio crackled in his hands. What if he's telling the truth? He's not. But what if... Marcus, Vivian's voice was sharp. We've been working on this deal for 8 months. 8 months of negotiations, due diligence, legal review. Derek's team has been over every inch of it. The board approved it unanimously. We're 20 minutes away from signing and closing the biggest transaction in this company's history. And you want me to blow it up because some random guy in a coffee-stained jacket walked in with an envelope? I want you to be careful. I am being careful. That's why I'm not letting myself get distracted by obvious nonsense. The elevator chimed. 37th floor, executive level. The doors opened onto a hallway that looked like it had been designed by someone who thought intimidation was an aesthetic. Dark wood panels, recessed lighting, original artwork that cost more than most people's cars. At the end of the hall, glass doors led to the boardroom. Through them, Vivian could see Derek Voss standing near the windows, talking on his phone. He was 45, with silver hair and a smile that had closed 100 deals. He'd been with Sterling Harbor for 12 years, worked his way up from junior analyst to CFO. He was smart, ruthless, and loyal. Or so she'd thought. There's fraud buried in this deal. Derek Voss has a relationship with the buyer that he hasn't disclosed. Vivian pushed the thought away. Ridiculous. Derek had been transparent throughout the entire process. She'd personally reviewed the conflict of interest disclosures. There was nothing. Still. Marcus, she said quietly. Yeah? That envelope. What did you do with it? Marcus held it up. Got it right here. Give it to me. He handed it over. The wax seal was cracked, but still holding. The paper was heavy, expensive. Whoever had prepared this had money, or at least access to a good lawyer. Vivian turned it over in her hands. No return address, just her name written in black ink across the front. Vivian Hart, Chief Executive Officer, Sterling Harbor Capital. The handwriting was neat, careful, masculine. You going to open it? Marcus asked. Vivian looked through the glass doors. Derek had finished his call. He was straightening his tie, checking his reflection in the window, getting ready. The signing was scheduled for 11 o'clock. It was 10:42. No, Vivian said. She handed the envelope back to Marcus. Shred it. Vivian, shred it. Then meet me in the boardroom. She walked through the glass doors before he could argue. The boardroom was enormous. 40-foot ceilings, a conference table made from a single slab of walnut that had supposedly come from a tree in Oregon and cost $250,000 to harvest, transport, and finish. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Derek turned when she entered. His smile was warm. There she is? Ready to make history? Always. Vivian set her bag down. Everything in place? Final documents are printed and ready for signature. Legal's standing by. The wire transfer is queued up. Executes the moment we sign. He checked his watch. Buyer's attorney should be here in 5 minutes. Good. Derek studied her face. You okay? You seem tense. I'm fine. Because if you're having second thoughts, I'm not. Good. Because this is the right move, Vivian. Selling Meridian frees up capital for the Singapore expansion, diversifies our portfolio, and positions us perfectly for the next growth phase. This is exactly what Sterling Harbor needs. Vivian nodded. Everything he was saying made sense. It was the same argument he'd been making for months, the same logic that had convinced the board. So why did her stomach feel tight? Vivian? Derek's voice was softer now. Talk to me. There was a man in the lobby. He tried to stop the signing. Derek's expression didn't change. What kind of man? Said his name was Caleb Monroe. Claimed he was a trustee of some family trust with veto power over the deal. Caleb Monroe. Derek said the name slowly, like he was tasting it. Doesn't ring a bell. What did he want? To give me documents. Said there was fraud in the transaction. Said you had an undisclosed relationship with the buyer. Derek laughed. It sounded genuine. Me? Vivian, come on. You've seen my disclosures. You've reviewed the entire deal structure. There's nothing there. I know. So why bring it up? Because he seemed, Vivian paused, tried to find the right word, desperate. Of course he did. That's the whole point. Someone, probably a competitor, paid him to come here and rattle you right before the signing. It's a classic move. Make you doubt yourself, make you hesitate, give them time to swoop in with a better offer or tank the deal entirely. You think someone paid him? What else would it be? Some random guy just happens to show up with a sealed envelope full of evidence 20 minutes before we close? Come on, this is corporate sabotage 101. Derek stepped closer, put a hand on her shoulder. Vivian, I've been with you for 12 years. I helped you build this company. I would never do anything to hurt Sterling Harbor. You know that. Vivian looked at him, searched his face for any sign of deception, found nothing but sincerity. I know, she said quietly. So let's forget about some desperate con artist in the lobby and focus on what matters. In 15 minutes, we're going to close the deal of a lifetime. And then we're going to take this company to places it's never been. Derek's hand squeezed her shoulder once, then dropped. He walked back to the windows, pulling out his phone again. Vivian stood there for a moment, alone in the massive room. Through the glass doors, she could see Marcus in the hallway. He was still holding the envelope. He caught her eye, raised it slightly, a silent question. Vivian shook her head. Marcus hesitated. Then he turned and walked away. Vivian watched him go, told herself she was making the right call. The smart call. But the tightness in her stomach didn't go away. Whack. At the 19th Precinct station house, Caleb Monroe sat in a holding cell that smelled like bleach and failure. The cuffs were off, but his wrists still ached where the metal had dug in. There were 3 other men in the cell with him, one sleeping on the bench, one pacing, one sitting on the floor muttering to himself. Caleb leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. He'd screwed up. Comes in too hot, too aggressive. Should have played it different. Should have been calmer, more professional. Should have worn the suit. But he didn't own a suit that fit, and the one he had made him look like a kid playing dress-up. So he'd gone with the jacket and jeans and hoped his words would be enough. They weren't. Lily was with Mrs. Chen now. The cops had called her and she'd come down to the station to pick Lily up. Caleb had watched through the bars as Mrs. Chen wrapped Lily in a hug and promised everything would be okay. Lily had looked back at him with those huge eyes, and he'd smiled and waved like this was all some big misunderstanding that would get sorted out soon. It wasn't. Trespassing, disorderly conduct, possible stalking charges pending review. The desk sergeant had read him the list with the enthusiasm of someone reading a grocery receipt. Bail would be set in a few hours. Caleb didn't have the money, which meant he'd be here when Vivian Hart signed the Meridian deal, which meant he'd failed. The cell door rattled. A guard appeared. "Monroe, you got a visitor." Caleb looked up. "Who?" "Lawyer." Caleb frowned. He didn't have a lawyer, couldn't afford one, but he stood up anyway and followed the guard down a narrow hallway to a meeting room that was somehow more depressing than the cell. Gray walls, gray table, gray chairs, a window that looked out onto a parking lot full of gray patrol cars. Sitting at the table was a woman in her 60s, white hair cut short, wearing a navy suit and glasses on a chain around her neck. She had a briefcase open in front of her, and a look on her face that said she'd seen every kind of bullshit the world had to offer, and wasn't impressed by any of it. "Mr. Monroe," she said as Caleb sat down. Her voice was crisp, Eastern Seaboard accent. Old money. "My name is Helena Marsh. I'm an attorney with Whitmore and Associates." "I didn't call a lawyer." "I know. Your father did." Caleb blinked. "My father's dead." "Yes. For 2 years now." Helena pulled a folder from her briefcase. "But before he passed, he retained our firm to handle certain contingencies related to the Monroe Family Trust. One of those contingencies was the sale of the Meridian Hospital Division by Sterling Harbor Capital." "He knew about this?" "He knew it was a possibility. Sterling Harbor has been trying to divest non-core assets for years. Your father set up a series of alerts, legal tripwires essentially, that would notify us if certain conditions were met. 3 days ago, those conditions were met. Sterling Harbor filed notice of intent to sell Meridian, which triggered the trust provisions, which brought me here." Caleb's head was spinning. "My father set this up?" "Your father was many things, Mr. Monroe, most of them unpleasant. But he understood the value of the trust, and he understood that one day you might need help protecting it. I don't understand. Helena pulled out a document, set it on the table. This is the Monroe Family Trust Agreement, established 1984, amended 1987. Paragraph 12, Section 4, gives the controlling trustee veto authority over any sale of assets valued above $50 million in any company where the trust holds more than a 20% equity stake. Sterling Harbor Capital is one of those companies. I tried to tell them that. I know. I watched the lobby footage. You were inarticulate and emotional, but technically correct. Helena's eyes were sharp behind her glasses. Unfortunately, being correct doesn't mean much when you're being dragged out by security. So what now? Now I file an emergency injunction to halt the sale pending trustee review. I have a judge on standby. The moment Sterling Harbor tries to close that deal, we shut it down. Caleb stared at her. You can do that? I can. The question is, do you want me to? Of course I do. That's why I went there. Why? Why what? Why do you care? Helena leaned forward. You didn't know about this trust until a few days ago. You don't have a relationship with Sterling Harbor. You don't work in finance. You're a bookkeeper in Queens who spends his days counting other people's money and his nights raising a daughter alone. This deal doesn't affect you personally. So why risk arrest? Why drag your child into it? Why fight so hard for something that, frankly, has nothing to do with your life? Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, because it's wrong. Helena tilted her head. Elaborate. The Meridian Hospital Division isn't just some asset on a balance sheet. It's 3 hospitals in underserved neighborhoods. It's the only level 1 trauma center in East Brooklyn. It's a children's wing that treats kids who can't afford to go anywhere else. Caleb's voice got harder. And Derek Voss is selling it to a private equity firm for $400 million when it's worth at least twice that. They're going to strip it for parts, sell the real estate, shut down the unprofitable units, which means the trauma center, which means the children's wing, and turn what's left into boutique medical facilities for people who can pay cash. And you know this how? Because I've been doing the research. I pulled property records. I looked at the buyer's portfolio. I talked to people who work at Meridian. I put it together. Helena studied him. You're smarter than you look. Thanks, I think. But intelligence without leverage is just noise. Do you have proof of any wrongdoing? It's in the envelope I tried to give Vivian Hart. The envelope she handed to her chief of staff and told him to shred. Caleb's stomach dropped. She did what? I have sources inside Sterling Harbor. The envelope was destroyed 10 minutes ago. That was the only copy. I know. So we've got nothing. Helena smiled. It was thin and sharp. We have the trust agreement. We have legal standing, and we have time. The injunction will buy us 48 hours minimum, probably more, long enough to subpoena records, depose witnesses, and build a case. And if there's no case to build, then we walk away and let the deal close. But somehow, Mr. Monroe, I don't think that's going to be necessary. Helena closed her briefcase with a decisive click. Your father may have been a drunk and a gambler, but he had good instincts. If he flagged this deal as problematic, there's a reason. She stood, straightened her suit. Now, I'm going to get you out of here, and then we're going to pay a visit to Sterling Harbor Capital, officially this time, with paperwork they can't ignore and a legal threat they can't shred. Caleb stood too. His legs felt shaky. What about Lily? Your daughter will stay with Mrs. Chen for now. Is that acceptable? I guess it has to be. Good. Helena walked to the door, knocked twice. The guard appeared. Mr. Monroe is being released. Charges dropped per the DA's office. The guard looked skeptical. Since when? Since I called them 5 minutes ago and explained that arresting a man for exercising his legal rights as a trustee constitutes unlawful detention and opens the city up to a civil rights lawsuit. Helena's voice was ice. The paperwork should be hitting your captain's desk right about now. The guard muttered something under his breath and unlocked the door. Caleb followed Helena out of the station house and into the afternoon sun. A town car was waiting at the curb, black and sleek and utterly out of place in this neighborhood. Get in, Helena said. We have a signing to crash. Caleb climbed into the back seat. The leather was soft, the interior cold and quiet. Helena slid in beside him. The driver pulled away from the curb without a word. They drove in silence for a few blocks. Then Caleb said, "Why are you helping me?" Helena didn't look at him. She was reviewing documents, making notes in the margins with a fountain pen. "Because your father paid a retainer 30 years ago with very specific instructions. And because I don't like bullies." Vivian Hart's a bully? Vivian Hart is a woman who clawed her way to the top of a company run by men who thought she should be getting them coffee. She's brilliant, ruthless, and absolutely convinced she's the smartest person in any room, which makes her dangerous. You sound like you know her. I faced her in court twice, lost once, won once. She doesn't forgive people who beat her. And Derek Voss? Helena's expression went cold. Derek Voss is worse. He's the kind of man who'll smile while he slits your throat. I've been tracking him for years. If he's dirty on this deal, and I think he is, then taking him down will be deeply satisfying. The car turned onto Fifth Avenue. Sterling Harbor's building loomed ahead, all glass and steel and arrogance. "One more question," Caleb said. "Make it quick." "What happens if we're wrong? What if there's no fraud, no hidden relationship, nothing illegal?" Helena finally looked at him. "Then you still have the trust provisions. You can still veto the sale, force them to renegotiate, demand a higher price, protect those hospitals." She paused. "But we're not wrong, Mr. Monroe. Men like Derek Voss don't suddenly develop a conscience. If this deal smells bad, it's because something's rotting underneath." The car pulled up to the curb. Helena gathered her briefcase. "Ready?" Caleb thought about Lily. About the children's wing at Meridian, where she'd been treated last year when she fell off the jungle gym and broke her arm. About the doctors who'd been kind and patient, even though Caleb's insurance barely covered half the bill. About Vivian Hart standing in that lobby, looking at him like he was nothing. "Yeah," he said, "I'm ready." They got out of the car and walked through the revolving doors. This time, nobody tried to stop them. Gabrielle recognized them the moment they came through the doors. Her hand went to the phone, but Helena was already at the desk, briefcase down, business card out. "Helena Marsh, Whitmore and Associates. We're here to see Vivian Hart." Gabrielle's eyes flicked to Caleb, then back. "Ms. Hart is in a meeting." "I'm aware. The Meridian signing." Helena's smile didn't reach her eyes. "That's why we're here." "I can't interrupt." "You can and you will." Helena slid a document across the desk. "That's a notice of legal standing filed with the New York County Supreme Court 30 minutes ago. Mr. Monroe is the controlling trustee of the Monroe Family Trust, which holds significant equity in Sterling Harbor Capital and veto authority over the transaction currently in progress. We're here to exercise that authority." Gabrielle stared at the document like it might bite her. "I need to verify this with legal." "By all means. But while you're doing that, I suggest you inform Ms. Hart that if she signs those documents without trustee approval, she'll be in breach of fiduciary duty and personally liable for damages." Helena's voice stayed pleasant. "The clock's ticking." Gabrielle picked up the phone. Her hand was shaking slightly. She spoke in low tones, listened, spoke again, hung up. "Someone will be down," she said. "Good." They waited. Caleb stood next to Helena, feeling every eye in the lobby on him. A few people whispered. One guy in a suit took a photo with his phone before security made him delete it. The seconds crawled past like wounded things. Then the elevator chimed. Marcus stepped out. He looked tired. More tired than he had an hour ago, like the weight of the morning was starting to press down. He saw Helena, and something crossed his face. Recognition, maybe. Or resignation. "Ms. Marsh," he said. "It's been a while." "Marcus," Helena's tone was cordial. "Still playing cleanup for people who should know better? Still tilting at windmills? Only the ones worth knocking down." She gestured to Caleb. "I believe you've met my client." Marcus looked at Caleb. There was something in his eyes that might have been sympathy. "Yeah, we've met." He turned back to Helena. "You really want to do this?" "I really do." "Vivian's not going to stop the signing." "Then she's going to have a very expensive problem on her hands." Marcus rubbed his face, let out a long breath. "Come with me." They rode the elevator in silence. Marcus stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching the floor numbers climb. Caleb could feel the tension rolling off him in waves. When they hit the 37th floor, Marcus didn't move right away. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I told her to look at the envelope. But she didn't, Helena said. No, because Derek told her not to. Marcus's jaw tightened, because she made her own decision. Did she? The elevator doors opened. Marcus walked out without answering. The hallway was empty except for a young woman in a gray dress standing outside the boardroom doors. She had a tablet in her hands and the look of someone who'd been told to guard something but wasn't sure what. They're inside, she said to Marcus. I know. Ms. Hart said no interruptions. This isn't an interruption. This is a legal intervention. Helena walked past her and pushed through the glass doors. The boardroom was exactly what Caleb had imagined. Too big, too expensive, too designed to make people feel small. The tables stretched like an airport runway. The windows showed the city spread out below like a map of conquered territory. At the far end, Vivian Hart sat with Derek Voss and 3 other people Caleb didn't recognize. Documents were spread across the table. A man in wire-rimmed glasses was walking through a page pointing at signature lines. Everyone looked up when Helena entered. Vivian's expression went from annoyed to furious in the space of a heartbeat. What the hell is this? She said. Ms. Hart, Helena set her briefcase on the table. I apologize for the interruption, but we have a time-sensitive legal matter that requires your immediate attention. Get out. I'm afraid I can't do that. Marcus, call security. Vivian, wait, Marcus started. I don't have time for this. Vivian stood. We are in the middle of closing a $400 million deal. I don't care who you are or what you think you have, you need to leave, now. Helena opened her briefcase, pulled out a folder. My name is Helena Marsh. I represent Caleb Monroe, controlling trustee of the Monroe Family Trust. The trust holds a 30% equity stake in Sterling Harbor Capital, acquired in 1987 as part of the original capitalization structure. Under the terms of the trust agreement, any sale of assets valued over $50 million requires trustee approval. You're about to sell the Meridian Hospital division for $400 million. Without Mr. Monroe's signature, this transaction is void. Silence. Wire-rimmed glasses looked at Vivian. Is this true? Of course it's not true, Derek said. His voice was smooth, certain. This is a disruption tactic. Someone's trying to kill the deal. I have the trust documents right here, Helena said, along with a filed notice of legal standing and a prepared injunction that will freeze all Sterling Harbor accounts the moment you attempt to execute the wire transfer. Wire-rimmed glasses stood up. I need to see those documents. Who are you? Helena asked. Robert Chen, buyer's counsel. Helena handed him the folder. Chen sat back down and started reading. The room watched him. Caleb could hear someone's watch ticking, or maybe it was his own pulse. Chen read for what felt like an hour, but was probably 2 minutes. Then he looked up at Vivian. This is legitimate, he said. What? Vivian's voice was sharp. The trust agreement is valid. The equity stake is registered. The veto provisions are enforceable. Chen closed the folder. I'm sorry, Ms. Hart, but we can't proceed without trustee consent. That's ridiculous. It's the law. Derek leaned forward. Robert, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to verify the documents, check the signatures, make sure everything's... I just did, Chen said. It's real. Vivian turned to look at Caleb. Her eyes were hard enough to cut glass. You did this. I tried to warn you, Caleb said. You tried to sabotage me. I tried to stop you from making a mistake. The only mistake here is letting you back in this building. Vivian looked at Helena. How much? I'm sorry? How much do you want? To go away? To sign off on the deal? To stop wasting everyone's time? Vivian's voice was ice-cold calm. Name your price. Helena smiled. We're not here for money, Ms. Hart. Everyone's here for money. Not today. Then what do you want? The truth. Helena glanced at Derek. Starting with Mr. Voss's relationship to the buyer. Derek's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. Just a fraction. Just enough. I don't have a relationship with the buyer, he said. Really? Because my associates did some digging this morning, and it turns out the private equity firm purchasing Meridian, Blackstone Ventures, has a managing partner named Richard Voss. Your brother. The room went still. Vivian turned slowly to look at Derek. Your brother? Half-brother, Derek said. We're not close. But you didn't disclose this. Because it's not relevant. Richard and I haven't spoken in 5 years. We don't have a relationship. I didn't even know Blackstone was bidding until after they were selected. How convenient, Helena said. It's the truth. Is it? Because phone records show 17 calls between you and Richard in the last 6 months. Derek's face went pale. Those were personal. Personal calls about a $400 million transaction your half-brother just happened to be involved in? I didn't influence the bidding process. Then why hide the connection? I wasn't hiding anything. Derek's voice was getting louder. I recused myself from the selection committee. I disclosed the relationship to legal. You disclosed that you had a half-brother named Richard. You didn't mention he worked for Blackstone. You didn't mention you'd been in contact. Helena pulled out another document. And you definitely didn't mention that you own a 3% stake in Blackstone Ventures through a shell company registered in Delaware. The silence that followed was absolute. Vivian was staring at Derek like she'd never seen him before. Tell me that's not true. Derek opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. It's complicated. It's a yes or no question. Yes, I own a stake in Blackstone, but it's passive. I'm not involved in their operations. I don't have any control. You have a financial interest in the buyer. Vivian's voice was very quiet. You're profiting from this deal. Everyone's profiting from this deal. That's the whole point. I'm profiting as CEO of Sterling Harbor. You're profiting as CFO and as a hidden investor in the company buying our assets. That's fraud, Derek. It's not fraud. It's a legitimate investment I made years ago. When? What? When did you buy the stake in Blackstone? Derek hesitated. 2 years ago. 2 years? Vivian's face was white. We started discussing the Meridian divestiture 2 years ago. That's a coincidence. Is it? Or did you buy into Blackstone specifically so you could steer this deal in their direction? I didn't steer anything. Then why is Meridian being sold for $400 million when independent appraisals put it at $900? The room erupted. Robert Chen was on his phone. The other people at the table, board members, Caleb realized, were talking over each other. Marcus had his head in his hands. Derek stood up. His chair scraped back hard. Those appraisals are outdated. The real estate market's changed. The regulatory environment's different. $400 million is a fair price. For who? Vivian's voice cut through the noise like a blade. For Sterling Harbor? Or for your brother's firm that gets to buy $1 billion asset at half price and flip it for a fortune? You're being paranoid. Am I? Because right now it looks like you've been planning this for years. Buy into Blackstone, wait for the right moment, push for the Meridian sale, make sure your brother's firm gets selected, structure the deal so we take a loss and they make a killing. Vivian stepped closer to Derek. How much were you going to make on this? 10 million? 20? What's the price tag for betraying the company you claim to care about? Derek's face was red now. I built this company with you. I worked 80-hour weeks. I sacrificed everything. So you could cash out at our expense. You don't know what you're talking about. Then explain it to me. Explain the phone calls. Explain the hidden stake. Explain why you fought so hard to keep the sale price low. I didn't skin. You told me 9 months ago that we should sell Meridian before the market softened. You said regulatory changes were coming that would devalue hospital assets. You scared the board into thinking we had a narrow window. Vivian's voice was shaking. Was any of that true? Or was it all just theater to set up your brother's payday? Derek's jaw worked. He looked around the room, at the board members, at Robert Chen, at Marcus, looking for support, finding none. I want a lawyer, he said. Good idea. Vivian picked up the phone on the table. Because you're going to need one. She made a call, spoke quietly, hung up. Security's on the way, she said. You're suspended, effective immediately. Legal will be in touch about termination proceedings and potential criminal charges. Derek stared at her. You're really going to do this? After everything we've built together? You did this, not me. I made you rich, Vivian. I made Sterling Harbor what it is. And then you tried to tear it apart for your own profit. Vivian's voice was flat. Get out of my building. Derek grabbed his phone. His hands were shaking. He looked at Caleb, and for a second something ugly flashed across his face. Hatred, pure and simple. This is your fault, he said. Caleb said nothing. Derek walked to the doors, stopped, turned back. You think you've won something here? He said to Vivian. You think firing me changes anything? I know where all the bodies are buried. Every shortcut you took, every rule you bent, every person you screwed over on your way to the top. His smile was vicious. If I go down, I'm taking you with me. Then he was gone. The doors swung shut behind him with a soft click that sounded too gentle for the moment. Vivian stood there, statue still. The color had drained from her face. She looked smaller somehow, less certain. For the first time since Caleb had met her, she looked human. Robert Chen cleared his throat. Miss Hart, I think it's safe to say this transaction is terminated. Obviously. My clients will expect a kill fee for... Send me the invoice. Vivian sat down heavily. Marcus, get legal on the phone. I want a full audit of every deal Derek touched in the last 5 years. I want his communications pulled. I want to know everyone he talked to, everything he promised, every dollar he moved. On it, Marcus said quietly. Vivian looked at the board members. I need the room. They left quickly, heads down, not meeting her eyes. Robert Chen followed them out. Marcus hesitated at the door. You want me to stay? He asked. No. Vivian, I said no. Marcus glanced at Helena, then at Caleb. Then he left. The boardroom was suddenly very quiet. Just Vivian at one end of the table, Helena and Caleb at the other. The city stretched out beyond the windows, indifferent to all of it. Vivian was staring at the documents spread in front of her. Months of work, 8 months of negotiations and planning and late nights. All of it contaminated now. All of it worthless. How did I miss it? She said softly. Helena sat down. Because you trusted him. I should have seen it. He was good at hiding it. Not good enough. Vivian looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed. You knew from the beginning. I suspected. How? Because men like Derek Voss don't change. 20 years ago, he tried the same thing at a firm in Boston. Got caught, got fired, disappeared for a while. Changed his name. He was Derek Vaughn back then. Rebuilt his reputation. Worked his way into your company. Helena's voice was matter-of-fact. People like him always think the next score will be the last one. That they'll get away with it this time. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Would you have believed me? Vivian was quiet for a moment. Then she shook her head. No. Exactly. Vivian stood up, walked to the windows, pressed her palm against the glass. I almost lost everything. But you didn't. Only because he showed up. Vivian turned to look at Caleb. Why? Caleb had been silent this whole time, standing near the door, trying to make himself invisible. Now both women were looking at him. I told you, he said. The hospitals matter. That's it? That's the whole reason? My daughter broke her arm last year. We went to Meridian because it was the only place that would take our insurance. The doctors were kind. They didn't rush her. They made sure she wasn't scared. Caleb's voice was steady. 2 months later, I heard Sterling Harbor was selling the division. I started digging, found out what Derek was doing, found out about the trust. He paused. I couldn't let it happen. Vivian studied him. You risked arrest. You dragged your daughter into it. You went up against a company with lawyers and money and power for a hospital you don't even work at. Yeah, that's insane. Maybe. It's also... Vivian trailed off, looked away. It's more than most people would do. Most people aren't desperate enough. Is that what you are? Desperate? Caleb thought about it. About the apartment in Queens with the radiator that only worked half the time. About the job that paid just enough to keep them fed, but not enough to build anything resembling security. About Lily's question last week, Daddy, are we poor? And the way his heart had broken trying to find an answer that was honest but not crushing. Yeah, he said, I'm desperate. Vivian turned back to the windows. I grew up in Newark. My dad worked at a factory. My mom cleaned houses. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 7 people. I shared a bed with my sister until I was 16. Her voice was distant. I got a scholarship to Rutgers. Worked 3 jobs to cover what the scholarship didn't. Slept 4 hours a night. Graduated top of my class. Got into Wharton for my MBA. Took out loans I'm still paying off. She paused. I built Sterling Harbor because I was desperate too. Desperate to never go back to that apartment. Desperate to prove I belonged in rooms where men like Derek thought I should be serving coffee. Desperate to matter. She laughed, but it sounded broken. And somewhere along the way, I forgot why I was doing it. Forgot what it felt like to be on the outside. Forgot that people like you existed. Caleb didn't say anything. Vivian wiped her eyes, turned around. I owe you an apology. You don't? Yes, I do. I judged you, dismissed you, called the cops on you in front of your daughter. Her voice cracked. I treated you like you were nothing because you looked like someone who didn't matter, and I was wrong. Okay? That's it? Okay? What do you want me to say? I want you to be angry. I want you to tell me what a terrible person I am. Vivian stopped. I don't know what I want. Helena stood up. What you want is to fix this. Reopen the bidding process. Get a fair price for Meridian. Make sure those hospitals stay operational. Vivian nodded slowly. Yeah, that's what I want. Good. Then we'll work together. Why would you help me? Because despite being an arrogant, ruthless, occasionally insufferable executive, you're not actually a bad person. You're just someone who got lost. Helena smiled slightly. I've seen worse. Vivian almost laughed. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement. It's the truth. Take it or leave it. I'll take it. Vivian looked at Caleb. What about you? What do you want? Caleb thought about Lily, about getting back to her, about Mrs. Chen's apartment and the way Lily would run to him when he walked in, throw her arms around his neck, ask if everything was okay now. I want to go home, he said. That's all? That's enough. Vivian walked over to him, extended her hand. Thank you. Caleb looked at it for a moment, then he shook it. Her grip was firm, her hand was cold. I need to check on Lily, he said. Of course. Vivian let go. Marcus will get you a car. I can take the subway. No, you can't. Not after what I put you through. She pulled out her phone. Marcus? I need a car for Mr. Monroe. Take him wherever he needs to go. Yes, now. Thank you. She hung up. Looked at Helena. Can we meet tomorrow? Start going through the Meridian files. 10 o'clock, my office. I'll be there. Helena picked up her briefcase. Come on, Mr. Monroe, let's get you home. They walked out of the boardroom together. The hallway was empty. The elevator came quickly. They rode down in silence. In the lobby, Gabrielle wouldn't meet Caleb's eyes. A black town car was waiting at the curb, engine running. Helena opened the door. Where to? Caleb gave her Mrs. Chen's address. The driver nodded and pulled away from the curb. They drove through the city. Traffic was heavy. The sun was starting to sink behind the buildings, throwing long shadows across the streets. Helena worked on her laptop, typing notes. Caleb watched the city slide past. After a while, Helena said, Your father would be proud. Caleb looked at her. You knew him? A little. He was a mess, but he loved you. Talked about you every time I saw him. She paused. He wanted better for you than he had for himself. He had a funny way of showing it. Most people do. The car turned onto Mrs. Chen's street. Caleb could see her building up ahead, 6 stories of worn brick, fire escape zigzagging down the front. Home. The driver pulled up to the curb. Caleb reached for the door handle. Mr. Monroe, Helena said. He looked back. This isn't over. Derek's going to fight. He has connections, money, leverage. It's going to get ugly. I know. Are you ready for that? Caleb thought about Lily upstairs, probably watching TV with Mrs. Chen, probably worried even though she'd try not to show it. Thought about the choice he'd made this morning to walk into Sterling Harbor Capital with an envelope and a prayer. I don't know, he said honestly. But I'm here anyway. Helena smiled. That's all any of us can do. Caleb got out of the car. The door closed behind him with a solid thunk. The town car pulled away, taillights disappearing into traffic. He climbed the steps to Mrs. Chen's building. The front door was propped open with a brick like always. The elevator was broken like always. He took the stairs. Mrs. Chen's apartment was on the 4th floor. He knocked. The door opened and Lily was there, launching herself at him before Mrs. Chen could even say hello. "Daddy!" Caleb caught her, lifted her up, held her tight. "Hey, baby. Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" "No, sweetheart. I'm fine." "I was scared." "I know. I'm sorry." Lily pulled back to look at his face. Her eyes were still red from crying. "Did you save the hospital?" "Yeah, I think so." "Good." She hugged him again, face buried in his neck. Mrs. Chen stood in the doorway. She was 70-something, small and sharp-eyed, wearing a cardigan despite the warmth. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah, thank you for watching her." "She's a good girl. No trouble." Mrs. Chen smiled at Lily. "You want to come back tomorrow? We can finish our puzzle." Lily nodded against Caleb's shoulder. "Okay then." Mrs. Chen patted Caleb's arm. "You look tired. Go home. Rest." "I will." They walked down the stairs together, Caleb carrying Lily even though she was getting too big for it. His arms ached, his legs ached, everything ached. Their apartment was 2 blocks away. They walked in silence, Lily's head heavy on his shoulder. The street was busy, people coming home from work, kids playing, someone's music thumping from an open window. Home was a 5th-floor walk-up with a view of the building next door. 1 bedroom, small kitchen, bathroom with a toilet that ran constantly. Caleb set Lily down and unlocked the door. Inside smelled like the mac and cheese they'd had for dinner last night. Lily's drawings covered the refrigerator. Her backpack sat by the door, pink with a broken zipper. Caleb locked the deadbolt, checked the window locks. Old habits. "You hungry?" he asked. Lily shook her head. "Tired." "Yeah, me too." "Can I sleep in your bed tonight?" "Sure, baby." They went through this bedtime routine on autopilot. Teeth brushed, pajamas on, nightlight plugged in. Lily climbed into Caleb's bed and pulled the covers up to her chin. He sat on the edge. "Tell me a story," she said. "What kind?" "A good one." Caleb thought for a moment. Then he said, "Once there was a little girl who was braver than she knew." "What was her name?" "Let's call her Lily." She smiled. "Keep going." This Lily lived in a big city with her dad. And one day, her dad had to do something really hard, something scary. And Lily went with him even though she was afraid because she loved her dad and wanted to help. Did it work? Yeah, it worked. What happened to the bad people? They got caught, and the good people got to keep doing good things. Lily's eyes were already closing. I like that story. Me too. Daddy? Yeah? That lady was mean to you. She was scared. Are you going to see her again? Maybe. If you do, tell her I said she should be nicer. Caleb smiled. I will. Lily was asleep within minutes. Caleb sat there watching her breathe, watching the nightlight paint shadows on the wall. His phone buzzed. A text from Helena. Preliminary injunction filed. Deal officially dead. Well done. He set the phone down, looked around the apartment, the peeling paint, the radiator that clanked, the water stain on the ceiling from the leak upstairs that the landlord kept promising to fix. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. Caleb stood up quietly, walked to the window, looked out at the city. Millions of lights, millions of lives, everyone fighting their own battles. Somewhere out there, Vivian Hart was probably still at her office, going through files, trying to figure out how she'd missed the betrayal. Somewhere, Derek Voss was probably calling lawyers, planning his defense. Somewhere, Helena Marsh was building her case. And here, in this small apartment in Queens, Caleb Monroe was exactly where he'd started. Except he wasn't. Because now he knew something he hadn't known this morning. He knew that sometimes the system worked. Sometimes the little guy won. Sometimes showing up and telling the truth was enough. Not always, but sometimes. And sometimes was better than never. He watched the city for a long time. Then he climbed into bed next to Lily, careful not to wake her, and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would bring new problems. Helena had warned him. Derek wouldn't go quietly. There would be lawyers, depositions, maybe threats. The fight was just beginning. But tonight, Lily was safe. The hospitals were safe. Tonight was enough. The call came at 6 in the morning, 3 days later. Caleb was making coffee in the kitchen. Instant. The cheap kind that tasted like burned dirt but had enough caffeine to get him moving. Lily was still asleep. The apartment was quiet except for the radiator's familiar clank and the traffic noise drifting up from the street. His phone buzzed against the counter, Helena's name on the screen. "Yeah," he said, voice rough from sleep. "We have a problem." Helena didn't bother with pleasantries. "Derek filed a countersuit last night. He's claiming wrongful termination, defamation, and tortious interference with business relationships. He's asking for $50 million in damages." Caleb set down his mug. $50 million. From Sterling Harbor, primarily, but he's named you personally in the tortious interference claim. Says you conspired with me to destroy his reputation and sabotage a legitimate business transaction. That's insane. That's litigation. Helena's voice was clipped, efficient. He also leaked the story to the press. Wall Street Journal ran it this morning. Sterling Harbor, CFO, claims setup in failed hospital sale. He's painting himself as the victim. Caleb walked to the window. Outside, the city was waking up, lights coming on in windows, people heading to subway stations, delivery trucks double parked with their hazards blinking. "What does this mean?" he asked. "It means Derek's going on offense. He's not trying to win the lawsuit. He's trying to make the fight so expensive and ugly that Sterling Harbor settles, pays him to go away quietly." "Will they?" Vivian says no, but the board's getting nervous. They're worried about the publicity, the legal costs, the distraction. Helena paused. "There's a meeting this afternoon. Emergency session. The board's going to vote on whether to settle or fight." "What do you need from me?" "I need you to be ready. If the board votes to fight, Derek's going to come after you hard. Depositions, subpoenas, maybe criminal referrals if he can convince a prosecutor there's something there." "There's nothing there." "I know that. You know that. But Derek's lawyers are going to dig through your life looking for anything they can use. Unpaid parking tickets, old tax returns, anything that makes you look unreliable or dishonest." Her voice softened slightly. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Is there anything in your past that could hurt us?" Caleb thought about the arrest 2 years ago in the park, the mistaken identity thing. It had been cleared, expunged even, but records had a way of surfacing when people went looking. "Nothing that matters," he said. "That's not the same as nothing. I was arrested once. Cops thought I matched a description. They let me go 20 minutes later. It's not on my record anymore. But it happened." "Yeah." Helena was quiet for a moment. "Okay, I can work with that. Anything else?" "No." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." "Good. Stay by your phone today. I'll call you after the board meeting." She hung up before he could respond. Caleb stood there with the phone in his hand, watching the city. The coffee was getting cold on the counter. His stomach felt tight. Behind him, Lily's door opened. She shuffled out in her pajamas, hair sticking up in a dozen directions, rubbing her eyes. "Who are you talking to?" she asked. "Work stuff." "You sounded worried." "I'm okay." She looked at him with those two knowing eyes. 6 years old and already fluent in reading the things he didn't say. "Are the bad people still being bad?" Caleb crouched down to her level. "Some of them, yeah. But we're going to stop them." "Promise?" He wanted to. Wanted to tell her everything would be fine, that the good guys always won, that truth and justice prevailed. But she was getting old enough to know when he was lying. "I'm going to try really hard," he said instead. That seemed to satisfy her. She hugged him, quick and fierce, then went to the cabinet looking for cereal. Caleb made her breakfast, got her dressed, walked her to school, holding her hand, the same route they took every morning. At the gate, she turned back to him. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby." "If you have to go away again, can you tell me first?" His chest hurt. "I'm not going anywhere." "But if you do?" "I'll tell you first, I promise." She nodded, adjusted her backpack, ran off to join her friends on the playground. Caleb watched until she disappeared into the building. Then he walked to the subway, rode it to the office where he did bookkeeping for a printing company in Midtown. The work was mindless, reconciling invoices, tracking expenses, making sure the numbers added up. Normally it bored him. Today he was grateful for the distraction, but he couldn't stop checking his phone. At 2 o'clock, Helena called. "How bad?" he asked. "Mixed. The board voted 5-3 to keep fighting, but the 3 who wanted to settle are influential. They're putting pressure on Vivian to reconsider." "Where does she stand?" "She wants blood. She's furious. I've never seen her like this. Helena's voice carried something that might have been approval. But fury doesn't win lawsuits. Evidence does. We need to prove Derek's fraud, and we need to do it fast before the board loses its nerve. What do you need? Access to Derek's communications. Emails, texts, phone records. The legal team at Sterling Harbor is going through everything, but they're slow. Corporate lawyers always are. She paused. There might be another way. I'm listening. Derek had an assistant, woman named Jennifer Park. She worked for him for 7 years, very loyal, very competent. She was let go yesterday, part of the house cleaning after Derek's suspension. You think she'll talk? I think she's angry about being fired and might have information worth hearing, but she won't talk to me. I'm the enemy now, corporate lawyer attacking her boss. Helena's voice got quieter. She might talk to you. Why would she trust me? Because you're not a lawyer. You're not part of the system. You're just a guy trying to do the right thing. Helena gave him an address in Brooklyn. She agreed to meet you at a coffee shop, 3 o'clock. Don't push her, just listen. If she has something, she'll share it. And if she doesn't, then we're back to grinding through documents and hoping we find the smoking gun before Derek's lawyers bury us in motions. Caleb checked the time. 2:15. I'll be there. He left work early, told his boss he had a family emergency. Took the train to Brooklyn, got off at Prospect Heights, found the coffee shop tucked between a yoga studio and a vintage clothing store. The kind of place that served $6 lattes and had furniture that looked deliberately uncomfortable. Jennifer Park was sitting in the back corner, hands wrapped around a mug, staring at nothing. She was maybe 30, Asian, dressed in jeans and a sweater that looked expensive but worn. Her eyes were red. Caleb bought a coffee he didn't want and walked over. Jennifer? She looked up. You're Caleb Monroe. Yeah. Sit down. He sat. The chair was as uncomfortable as it looked. Jennifer studied him for a long moment. You really went into Sterling Harbor and blew up a $400 million deal? I tried to stop a bad deal. It blew itself up. Derek says you sabotaged him. Derek's lying. Yeah. Jennifer's laugh was bitter. He's good at that. Helena said you might know something. Helena Marsh is a shark. She doesn't care about the truth. She just wants to win. Maybe, but right now we're on the same side. Jennifer looked at her coffee. I worked for Derek for 7 years. I scheduled his meetings, managed his calendar, screened his calls. I knew everything about his life. Her voice was tight. And he threw me away like garbage the second things got complicated. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be useful. She reached into her bag and pulled out a thumb drive, set it on the table between them. That's 3 months of Derek's personal emails. His private account, not the corporate one. He used it for things he didn't want IT to see. Caleb stared at the drive. How did you get this? He gave me the password 2 years ago, needed me to access something while he was traveling, never changed it after. Jennifer pushed the drive toward him. There's stuff in there, conversations with his brother, discussions about Meridian, plans. Plans for what? For getting rich. Her jaw tightened. Derek used to talk about it sometimes. Late nights when we were working. He'd say things like, we're building something here and loyalty gets rewarded. I thought he meant Sterling Harbor. Thought he was talking about building the company. She looked up, eyes hard. He was talking about building his exit strategy. Caleb picked up the thumb drive. It was small, light. Felt like it should weigh more given what it might contain. Why are you giving this to me? He asked. Because I believed in him. Believed he was different from all the other executives who treated their assistants like furniture. And I was wrong. Jennifer's voice cracked. He lied to me, used me. And when things fell apart, he didn't even have the decency to fire me himself. Sent HR to do it. Wouldn't take my calls. What do you want in return? I want him to lose. I want everyone to know what he did. I want his reputation destroyed the way he destroyed mine. She stood up, gathering her bag. Use it. Burn him down. And when it's over, make sure people know it was me who gave you the match. She walked out before Caleb could respond. He sat there for a minute, thumb drive in his hand, coffee getting cold. Around him, people typed on laptops and had conversations about weekend plans and apartment hunting. Normal life. The kind he used to have before he walked into Sterling Harbor Capital with an envelope. His phone rang. Helena again. Did she show? Helena asked. Yeah. And? She gave me something. Derek's personal emails. Silence on the other end. Then, you're serious? Very. How much? 3 months' worth. My office. Now. Don't let that drive out of your sight. Helena's office was in Lower Manhattan, 23rd floor of a building that tried too hard to look old money, but couldn't quite hide the new construction smell. The reception area was all dark wood and leather chairs. A young guy in a suit looked up when Caleb entered. I'm here to see Helena Marsh, Caleb said. Name? Caleb Monroe. The guy picked up a phone, spoke quietly, hung up. She's expecting you. Conference room B, down the hall, third door on the left. The conference room had a table that could seat 12 and windows that looked out at other windows. Helena was already there with 2 other people, a woman in her 40s with glasses and a tablet, and a younger guy who looked like he'd just graduated law school. This is Sarah Chen, our digital forensics specialist, and David Ross, junior associate, Helena said. They're going to help us go through the emails. Caleb handed over the thumb drive. Sarah took it like it was made of glass. How clean is the chain of custody? She asked. What does that mean? Caleb said. It means, can we prove this came from Derek's account and hasn't been tampered with? If we're going to use this in court, we need to be able to authenticate it. Jennifer gave it to me an hour ago. She said it's from Derek's personal email account. Did anyone else touch it between her giving it to you and now? No. Sarah nodded. Okay, I'll run verification protocols, make sure the metadata checks out. She plugged the drive into her laptop, started typing. Helena sat down across from Caleb. How did Jennifer seem? Angry, hurt, determined? Will she testify? I think so. If we need her? We might. Helena glanced at Sarah's laptop. If those emails show what I think they show, Jennifer Park just handed us the case. They waited. Sarah typed. The young guy, David, took notes on his laptop. Outside, the city dimmed as the sun sank behind buildings. After 20 minutes, Sarah looked up. This is authentic. Metadata matches Derek Voss's known devices and email patterns. Timestamps are consistent. No signs of alteration. What's in them? Helena asked. Sarah turned her laptop around. On the screen was an email dated 8 months ago. From Derek Voss to Richard Voss. Subject, timeline. We need to move faster. Vivian's getting pressure from the board to explore strategic options. If we don't position Meridian as a distressed asset now, someone else might swoop in with a better offer. I'm going to push for an accelerated sale timeline. You make sure Blackstone's ready to bid low and close fast. Helena read it twice. Keep going. Sarah scrolled. More emails, Derek and Richard discussing appraisal manipulation, Derek and Richard planning how to structure the deal to minimize scrutiny, Derek coaching Richard on what to say in bidder presentations. And then, 3 months ago, this one. From Derek Voss. To Richard Voss. Subject, RE, final numbers. 400 million is perfect. Low enough that we pocket a fortune on the flip. High enough that the board won't question it too hard. I've got Vivian convinced the market's soft. She trusts me. By the time anyone realizes what happened, we'll be long gone. The room was silent. Helena leaned back in her chair. We've got him. Is this enough? Caleb asked. This is more than enough. This is fraud. Conspiracy. Breach of fiduciary duty. This is everything we need to destroy Derek's countersuit and probably put him in prison. David was typing furiously. I'll start drafting the motion. We can file first thing tomorrow. No, Helena said. Everyone looked at her. We don't file yet, she continued. We use this as leverage. Derek doesn't know we have it. Right now he thinks he's in a strong position. He thinks he can bleed Sterling Harbor dry with legal fees and bad publicity until they settle. She smiled, cold and sharp. We're going to let him keep thinking that. And then, when he's committed, when he's put everything on the line, we're going to drop this on him like a bomb. Why wait? Sarah asked. Because I want him to burn every bridge. I want him to make enemies. I want him to go on record with lies that these emails contradict. Helena's eyes were hard. When we're done, Derek Voss won't just lose his lawsuit. He'll lose everything. Caleb felt something uncomfortable in his chest. This isn't about revenge. No, it's about justice. Is it? Because right now it sounds like you're enjoying this. Helena met his gaze. I'm enjoying this. Derek Voss has spent his entire career hurting people and getting away with it. He's manipulated, lied, stolen. He destroyed Jennifer Park's career without a second thought. He tried to steal from Sterling Harbor. He would have gutted those hospitals and walked away rich. Her voice got quieter. So yes, Mr. Monroe, I'm going to enjoy watching him pay for it. And if that makes me a bad person, I can live with that. Caleb wanted to argue, wanted to say there was a line between justice and vengeance. But he thought about Lily crying in the lobby, thought about Derek's face when he'd said, "This is your fault," thought about all the people who'd worked at Meridian who would have lost their jobs if the deal had gone through. How long do we wait? He asked. A week. Maybe 2. Long enough for Derek to feel confident. Helena looked at Sarah. Make copies of everything. Multiple backups. I want this stored in 3 different locations. On it. David, start building the timeline. Every email, every meeting, every lie. I want a narrative so airtight that a first-year law student could prosecute it. Yes, ma'am. Helena stood. Mr. Monroe, you should go home. Get some rest. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Caleb stood too. What should I tell Vivian? Nothing yet. The fewer people who know about this, the better. She deserves to know, and she will, when the time is right. Helena walked him to the door. You did good today. Getting those emails, that changed everything. Jennifer did the hard part. She did, but you're the reason she trusted us enough to hand them over. Helena's expression softened slightly. You have a gift for making people believe in things. Don't lose that. Caleb left the office and took the subway home. The train was packed with people heading back to their lives. He stood near the door, holding the overhead rail, thinking about what Helena had said. A gift for making people believe in things. He wasn't sure that was true. Mostly he just felt tired. The apartment was dark when he got home. He'd forgotten that Lily had a sleepover at her friend Maya's house tonight. Mrs. Chen had picked her up from school. The place felt empty without her. Caleb heated up leftover Chinese food, ate it standing at the counter, checked his phone. A text from an unknown number. You don't know what you're doing. Walk away before you get hurt. He stared at it for a long moment, then he deleted it. Another text came through immediately. I'm serious. You're out of your depth. Caleb called Helena. She answered on the first ring. I'm getting threats, he said. What kind? He read her the messages. Block the number, she said. And if you get any more, call the police. You think it's Derek? Probably someone working for him. He's scared. Good. I don't feel good about it. You're not supposed to. You're a decent person, but decent doesn't mean weak. You stand your ground. You call me if anything escalates, and you do not, under any circumstances, engage with whoever's sending those messages. Understood? Yeah. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be busy. She hung up. Caleb blocked the number, checked the locks on the door and windows, turned off the lights and lay down on his bed, still wearing his clothes. Sleep didn't come. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about Derek, about Vivian, about Helena's cold smile when she talked about revenge, about Jennifer Park's red eyes and broken voice. Everyone was broken somehow. Everyone had wounds. The question was what you did with them. His phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Another text. Last warning. Caleb sat up. Called Helena again. No answer. Called the police non-emergency line. Waited on hold for 10 minutes. Explained the situation to someone who sounded bored. Have you been physically threatened? The operator asked. No, but... Has anyone shown up at your residence? No. Then file a report online. Someone will follow up within 48 hours. The line went dead. Caleb sat there in the dark, phone in his hand, listening to the building settle around him. Pipes creaking. Someone's TV through the wall. The city outside, indifferent and vast. He thought about Jennifer's words. Burn him down. He thought about Helena's smile. I want him to lose everything. He thought about his own reflection in Sterling Harbor's lobby, holding Lily's hand, trying to do one good thing. Somewhere along the way, this had stopped being about saving hospitals. Now it was personal. Now it was war. And Caleb wasn't sure he knew how to fight a war. His phone rang. Helena, finally. I just saw your messages, she said. Are you okay? Yeah. The threats are escalating. That's actually a good sign. How is that good? It means Derek's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. Her voice was steady, certain. Stay calm. Stay focused. We're winning. It doesn't feel like winning. It never does. Not in the middle. She paused. Do you want protection? I can have someone watch your building. No. You're sure? I'm not going to hide. Brave and stupid aren't the same thing. I know, Helena sighed. Fine. But you call me if anything happens. Anything. Don't try to handle this alone. Okay. I mean it, Mr. Monroe. I know. She hung up. Caleb lay back down, closed his eyes, tried to find sleep. It came eventually, thin and restless, full of dreams about boardrooms and hospitals, and his daughter's face pressed against glass. When he woke up, the sun was streaming through the window and his phone was ringing again. Helena's name on the screen. Derek's holding a press conference, she said without preamble. Noon today. He's going to make a statement about the lawsuit. What kind of statement? The kind where he paints himself as a whistleblower who tried to save Sterling Harbor from a corrupt CEO and got destroyed for it. That's a lie. Of course it is. But lies told confidently on camera have a way of becoming truth. Helena's voice was tight. Vivian wants to respond. I told her to wait. Let Derek talk. Let him commit to a narrative, and then we'll dismantle it piece by piece. When do we use the emails? Soon, but not yet. I want him confident enough to make unforced errors. What if the board loses its nerve before then? Then we accelerate the timeline. But I don't think they will. Vivian's got them convinced that settling would be admitting guilt. The board cares about a lot of things, but reputation is at the top of the list. Caleb walked to the window. Outside, people were going about their lives. Work, errands, problems that had nothing to do with corporate fraud or legal battles. I have to pick up Lily from her sleepover at 10, he said. So pick her up. Take her to the park. Have a normal day. Helena's voice softened. You can't live every minute in this fight, Mr. Monroe. You'll break. I know. Do you? He thought about it. I'm trying to. That's all any of us can do. After she hung up, Caleb showered, changed clothes, made coffee. At 9:45, he walked to Maya's building, rang the bell. Maya's mom answered, a tired-looking woman with a baby on her hip. They're in the living room, she said. They've been up since 6. Lots of energy. Caleb found Lily and Maya building a fort out of couch cushions. When Lily saw him, her face lit up. Daddy, look what we made. That's amazing, baby. Can we build one at home? Sure. They said goodbye to Maya and walked home together. Lily talked the whole way about the movies they'd watched and the pancakes they'd had for breakfast and how Maya's cat was scared of everything. Normal. Just normal. Back at the apartment, they built the fort. Used every pillow and blanket they owned. Made it big enough that they could both fit inside. Lily insisted on putting her stuffed animals in there too, arranged in a circle like they were having a meeting. What are they talking about? Caleb asked. Important stuff, Lily said seriously. Like what? Like how to make the world better. Caleb's chest tightened. And what did they decide? They decided that people should be nicer to each other, and that everyone should get a turn. She looked up at him. That's fair, right? Yeah, baby, that's fair. They spent the afternoon in the fort. Caleb read to her from a library book about a mouse who went on adventures. Lily fell asleep halfway through, curled against his side. He sat there with her breathing soft against his shoulder, the fort dim and warm around them. And for a little while, the rest of it fell away. The lawsuits, the threats, the emails, all of it. Just this. Just her. His phone buzzed. He checked it carefully, trying not to wake Lily. A news alert. Derek's press conference was starting. Caleb found a live stream. Turned the volume down low. Derek stood in front of a wall of microphones, looking every inch the wounded executive. Hair perfect. Suit expensive. Expression carefully calibrated to project sincerity and hurt. I've spent 12 years building Sterling Harbor Capital, he began. 12 years of my life dedicated to making that company successful. And now I'm being accused of fraud by people who know nothing about what actually happened. A reporter shouted a question. Derek held up a hand. I'll take questions in a moment, but first I want to address the allegations directly. I did not commit fraud. I did not hide my relationship with Blackstone Ventures. I disclosed everything according to company policy. The Meridian sale was structured to benefit Sterling Harbor and its shareholders. The price was fair, the process was clean, and the accusations against me are nothing more than a coordinated attempt to cover up the real problem. Which is, another reporter called out, which is that Vivian Hart has lost control of her company. She's made enemies on the board. She's made questionable decisions that have cost shareholders millions. And when I tried to point this out privately, she retaliated by destroying my career and my reputation. Caleb felt sick watching it. Derek was good, polished, believable. The press conference went on for 20 minutes. Derek answered questions with the ease of someone who'd rehearsed every response. He positioned himself as the victim, Vivian as the villain, and Sterling Harbor as a company in crisis. By the time it ended, social media was already picking up the narrative. Posts defending Derek, articles questioning Vivian's leadership, commentary about corporate governance and accountability. Caleb's phone rang. Helena. You watching this? She asked. Yeah. He just made our job easier. How do you figure? Because everything he just said is on record, and when we release those emails, every single word of this press conference is going to look like perjury. Helena's voice had an edge to it. He hung himself. He just doesn't know it yet. When do we release them? Monday. Give the weekend news cycle time to run with Derek's version. Let him bask in it. Let him think he's winning. She paused. And then we bury him. Lily stirred against Caleb's side, murmured something in her sleep. I have to go, Caleb said quietly. Understood. Enjoy your weekend, Mr. Monroe. It's the last peaceful one you're going to have for a while. The line went dead. Caleb set his phone down, looked at the fort around them, the stuffed animals in their circle, his daughter sleeping peacefully against him. In 2 days, everything would explode. The emails would go public. Derek would be exposed. The story would be everywhere. And Caleb would be in the middle of it, whether he wanted to be or not. But that was Monday. Today was Saturday. Today he had a fort and a daughter and a few more hours of peace. He'd take them. Monday morning came too fast. Caleb woke before dawn to the sound of his phone vibrating against the nightstand. 3 missed calls from Helena, 2 from numbers he didn't recognize, a dozen text notifications. He checked the news first. The story had broken an hour ago. The headlines were everywhere. Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Bloomberg, Financial Times, all running variations of the same story. Sterling Harbor's former CFO caught in massive fraud scheme, evidence of conspiracy with buyer, personal emails reveal plot to defraud company and gut hospital division. Jennifer Park's name was in every article. She was being called a whistleblower, a hero, the assistant who'd risked everything to expose corruption. Derek's name was being dragged through every paragraph. His press conference from Friday was being played on loop, side by side with quotes from his own emails. The contradiction was devastating. Caleb's phone rang. Helena. It's done, she said. Her voice sounded tired but satisfied. We released everything to the press at 5 this morning. By 6, it was on every business news site. By 7, it had jumped to mainstream outlets. Derek's lawyers are already calling for meetings. What do they want? Damage control. They're going to try to spin this, claim the emails were taken out of context or doctored. But it won't work. Sarah's forensics report is airtight. Every metadata tag, every timestamp, every digital fingerprint points to authenticity. Caleb sat up. The apartment was quiet. Lily was still asleep. Outside, the city was just starting to wake up. What happens now? He asked. Now Derek's countersuit collapses. The judge will likely dismiss it by end of week. Sterling Harbor's legal team is preparing criminal referrals to the DA's office. The SEC is opening an investigation. Helena paused. You should probably expect media attention. Your name is in some of the articles. They're calling you the trustee who exposed the fraud. I didn't expose anything. Jennifer did. The story doesn't care about accuracy. It cares about narrative. And the narrative is that a single dad stood up to a corrupt CFO and saved a hospital. Caleb felt his stomach turn. I don't want to be part of the story. Too late. You already are. Her voice softened. Look, I know this isn't what you signed up for, but the attention will die down. Give it a week, maybe 2. People will move on to the next scandal. What about Derek? What about him? Is he dangerous? Helena was quiet for a moment. Cornered animals do unpredictable things. I've got someone watching your building, discreetly. You won't see them, but they're there. Helena, non-negotiable, Mr. Monroe. Your safety matters. Lily's safety matters. Let me do my job. She hung up before he could argue. Caleb got out of bed, made coffee, checked the locks on the door even though he'd checked them before bed, stood at the window watching the street below. Everything looked normal, people walking dogs, delivery trucks making their rounds. He wondered which car had Helena's person in it. At 7, Lily woke up. She stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes, her hair a disaster. "Morning, baby," Caleb said. "Is today a school day?" "Yeah." "Can we have pancakes?" They didn't have time for pancakes. They barely had time for cereal. But Caleb looked at his daughter standing there in her pajamas with the pink rabbits on them, and he couldn't say no. "Sure, pancakes." He made them from the box mix, slightly lumpy, slightly burned. Lily drowned hers in syrup and ate them with her hands while watching cartoons. Normal morning, normal routine. Nothing about the world falling apart outside their door. At 8:15, they left for school. Caleb held Lily's hand, walked their usual route. At the corner, he noticed a black sedan parked across the street. Tinted windows, engine running. He didn't look directly at it, but he felt its presence like pressure against his back. Helena's person, watching. At the school gates, Lily turned to hug him. "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too, baby." "Are you going to be here when school's done?" The question made his chest hurt. "Yeah, I'll be here." "Promise?" "Promise." She ran off to join her class. Caleb watched until she disappeared inside. Then he walked to the subway, very aware of the sedan pulling away from the curb and sliding into traffic behind him. He took the train to Helena's office. The lobby was busier than last time. Several people in expensive suits waiting near the elevators, all of them looking tense. When Caleb gave his name to reception, the young guy's eyes widened. "Ms. Marsh is expecting you," he said quickly. "Conference room B." Caleb found his way back. The same room, the same windows looking out at the city. But this time, there were more people. Helena, Sarah Chen, David Ross, and 3 others Caleb didn't recognize. They had papers spread across the table, laptops open, phones out. Helena looked up when he entered. "Mr. Monroe, good timing. We're about to call Vivian." "Why?" "Because the board is meeting in an hour, and she needs to know what we're planning." "Which is what?" Helena gestured to a chair. Caleb sat. She hit a button on the conference phone. It rang twice before Vivian answered. "Helena." "Vivian, I'm here with my team and Caleb Monroe. We're on speaker." "I saw the news." Vivian's voice sounded strained. "My phone's been ringing since 5:30. Board members, investors, reporters, everyone wants to know what the hell happened. What happened is we proved Derek Voss is a fraud." "You could have warned me." "We warned you Friday. You knew the emails existed. You knew we were going to release them. I didn't know you were going to turn it into a media circus." Helena's expression didn't change. "The media did that on their own. We simply provided the evidence. What they chose to do with it isn't our responsibility." There was a pause. When Vivian spoke again, her voice was quieter. "The board wants to settle Derek's lawsuit, pay him to make this go away." "That's insane," Helena said. "That's politics. They're worried about the company's reputation, about shareholder confidence. They think dragging this out in court will do more damage than paying Derek off." "The lawsuit is going to be dismissed. Derek has no case." "I know that, you know that, but the board doesn't care. They want this over." Helena leaned forward. "Listen to me very carefully, Vivian. If you settle now, Derek wins. He gets paid. He gets to walk away. And everyone who reads the settlement agreement will assume Sterling Harbor was at fault, that you're buying silence because you have something to hide. And if we fight, then we destroy him in court, publicly, completely. We make an example that says fraud has consequences." Helena's voice was steel. "But it's your call. You're the CEO." The line was quiet. Caleb could hear papers rustling on Vivian's end, someone talking in the background. "What does the evidence look like?" Vivian asked finally. Sarah Chen spoke up. "Airtight. We have emails proving Derek conspired with his brother to structure the Meridian sale as a below-market transaction. We have records showing he failed to disclose his financial interest in Blackstone Ventures. We have testimony from Jennifer Park about how Derek instructed her to delete certain communications. And we have independent appraisals showing Meridian was worth at least $900 million, not $400. Enough to win? Enough to annihilate him. Another pause. Then Vivian said, "What about criminal charges?" "The DA's office is reviewing our evidence package right now," Helena said. "I expect they'll file charges by end of week. Fraud, conspiracy, possibly money laundering depending on how Derek moved his Blackstone payments." How much time would he face? 5 to 10 years if convicted. Maybe more if they stacked charges. The silence that followed felt heavy. Caleb watched Helena's face. She looked like a predator watching prey from across a clearing. "Vivian," Helena said quietly, "Derek tried to destroy your company. He tried to steal from you. He called you incompetent on national television. He painted you as a failure." Her voice dropped. "And now you have the chance to prove he was wrong about everything. Don't waste it." When Vivian spoke, her voice was different, harder. "You're right. So we fight?" "We fight. I'll tell the board this morning. They're not going to like it." "They don't have to like it. They just have to support you." "And if they don't?" "Then you remind them that you're the one who built this company. You're the one who saw through Derek's lies. You're the one who's going to save Sterling Harbor from becoming a cautionary tale." Helena smiled. "You've got this, Vivian. Trust yourself." "I'm trying." "Try harder." Vivian laughed. It sounded tired, but genuine. "I'll call you after the board meeting." The line went dead. Helena sat back, looked at her team. "Sarah, make sure the DA has everything they need. David, start drafting the motion to dismiss Derek's suit. I want it filed by tomorrow morning." They nodded and went back to their laptops. Helena turned to Caleb. "How are you holding up?" "I'm fine." "Liar." Caleb almost smiled. "I'm managing." "You see anyone following you this morning?" "Black sedan, tinted windows." "That's Marcus." Caleb blinked. "Marcus? Vivian's chief of staff?" "Former corporate lawyer before he went into business. He volunteered to keep an eye on you, said he owed you one for not letting him shred that envelope." Helena's expression softened. "You've got people on your side, Mr. Monroe, more than you realize." "I didn't ask for sides." "No one ever does, but here we are." She stood. "Go home. Spend time with Lily. Let us handle the legal war for a while." Caleb stood too. "What if Derek tries something? Then Marcus calls me, I call the police, and Derek adds restraining order violation to his growing list of legal problems." Helena walked him to the door. "You did the hard part already. You exposed him. Now let the system do what it's supposed to do." "Does it usually?" "No, but sometimes it surprises you." Caleb left the office, rode the elevator down, walked out into a city that felt different than it had this morning, like the air had shifted, like something fundamental had changed. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You ruined my life." Caleb stopped walking. Read it again. His hands were shaking. Another text. "I hope you're happy." Another. "This isn't over." He called Helena. She answered immediately. "He's texting me," Caleb said. "Forward them to me. Now." Caleb did. Waited. Helena came back on the line 30 seconds later. "Those came from Derek's personal cell. Idiot didn't even try to hide it." Her voice was tight with anger. "I'm calling his lawyers right now, and I'm filing for a restraining order." "Where are you?" "Couple blocks from your office." "Marcus should be nearby. Stay put. I'm sending him to you." "Helena, stay put." She hung up. Caleb stood on the sidewalk. People flowed around him like water around a stone. Across the street, the black sedan pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down. Marcus leaned out. "Get in," he said. Caleb crossed the street, climbed into the passenger seat. The car smelled like coffee and leather. "You okay?" Marcus asked. "Yeah." "Helena told me about the text. Derek's losing it. Should I be worried?" Marcus pulled back into traffic. "Honestly? Yeah. Derek's not the kind of guy who handles losing well. And right now he's losing everything. His career, his reputation, probably his freedom. People like that get desperate." What do I do? You be careful. You don't go anywhere alone. You keep your daughter close, and you let people like me and Helena run interference. Marcus glanced at him. I know you want to handle this yourself. Independence, self-reliance, all that. But right now you need to accept help. I'm not good at that. Most people aren't. But it's the smart play. They drove in silence for a few blocks. Caleb watched the city through the window. People living their lives, going to work, meeting friends, solving normal problems. He wanted that back. Can I ask you something? Marcus said. Sure. Why'd you do it? Really? Not the line about the hospitals mattering, the real reason. Caleb thought about it. My daughter asked me once if we were poor. She was 5. We were at the grocery store and she wanted this toy, some plastic thing that cost maybe $3. And I had to tell her no because we didn't have $3 to spare. He paused. She didn't cry, didn't throw a fit, just said okay and put it back. And I realized she already knew, already understood that we didn't have money, that we couldn't afford things. That's hard. Yeah, and I thought about all the things I couldn't give her. The better apartment, the nicer clothes, the vacations other kids got to take. All the ways I was failing her. Caleb's voice got quieter. But then I thought about the hospital, about how when she broke her arm, the doctors were kind, how they didn't make us feel poor or less than, how they just took care of her. He looked at Marcus. I couldn't give Lily a lot of things, but I could make sure that hospitals stayed open, make sure other kids got the same care she got. That was something I could do. Marcus nodded slowly. You're a good dad. I'm trying. That's all anyone can do. They pulled up in front of Caleb's building. Marcus put the car in park. I'll be here until 6, he said. Then someone else takes over. You won't see them, but they'll be watching. How long is this going to last? Until Derek's in custody, or until he does something stupid enough that we can get him locked up for violating the restraining order. Marcus handed Caleb a card. That's my cell. You call me if anything feels off. Anything at all. Okay? I mean it. Strange car on your street, someone following you, weird phone calls, you call. I will. Caleb got out, walked into his building, climbed the stairs to his floor, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. The apartment felt different. He couldn't explain why. Everything was exactly where it should be. Lily's drawings on the fridge, dishes in the sink, her backpack by the door. But something felt off. He walked through slowly, checked the bedroom, the bathroom, the closets. Nothing. He was being paranoid. Probably. His phone rang. The school. His heart stopped. Mr. Monroe? A woman's voice. The school secretary. Yes? This is Carol from Lily's school. We had a man here about 20 minutes ago claiming to be Lily's uncle. He wanted to pick her up. Caleb's blood went cold. I don't have a brother. That's what we told him. He got very insistent, said there was a family emergency and he needed to take her immediately. Where's Lily? She's fine. She's in class. We didn't let him near her, but he was very aggressive. We ended up calling security to escort him out. What did he look like? Older gentleman, silver hair, expensive suit. He had a very commanding presence. Derek. I'm coming to get her, Caleb said. Mr. Monroe, she's safe here. We have protocols. I'm coming now. He hung up. Called Marcus. The phone rang once. Derek just tried to take Lily from school, Caleb said. What? He showed up claiming to be her uncle. School didn't let him, but where are you? My apartment. Stay there. I'm calling the police and Helena. Do not go to that school alone. Marcus, do not go alone. Marcus's voice was hard. Derek knows where Lily goes to school. He knows your patterns. If he's desperate enough to try to grab her, he's desperate enough to do worse. You go rushing over there and you might walk into an ambush. Caleb's hands were shaking. She's my daughter. I know. And we're going to keep her safe. But you need to be smart about this. There was a pause. I'm 2 minutes away. We'll go together, okay? Okay. 2 minutes felt like 2 hours. Caleb paced the apartment, checked his phone, thought about all the ways this could go wrong. What if Derek had people watching the school? What if he came back? What if... A knock on the door. Caleb looked through the peephole. Marcus. He opened up. Marcus stepped inside, phone to his ear. Yeah, we're heading there now. he was saying. How long until patrol arrives? Good. Have them wait outside. Don't approach the school until we get there. Right. He hung up. Looked at Caleb. NYPD is sending a unit to the school. They'll secure the perimeter. We go in, get Lily, and leave. Simple and fast. What if Derek's still there? Then the cops arrest him for attempted kidnapping and violating the restraining order that Helena filed about 40 minutes ago. Marcus opened the door. Come on. They took the stairs fast. Got into the sedan. Marcus drove like he'd done this before, quick but controlled, weaving through traffic without breaking any laws that would get them pulled over. Caleb's phone buzzed. Helena. I heard, she said. Are you with Marcus? Yeah. Good. The restraining order was approved. Derek's not allowed within 500 feet of you or Lily. If he violates it, he goes to jail immediately. What if he doesn't care? Then he goes to jail and we add contempt charges to his pile of legal problems. Helena's voice was firm. Caleb, listen to me. Derek's done. He knows it. This is just him lashing out because he can't accept that he lost. But he's not thinking clearly, which makes him dangerous. So you be careful, you stay with Marcus, and you let the police handle this. I will. I'm serious. No heroics. No confrontations. You see Derek? You walk the other way and call the cops. Okay. She hung up. They pulled up to the school. 2 police cruisers were already there, parked at the curb. Officers standing near the entrance, talking to the principal. Marcus parked. They got out. One of the cops came over, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression. You Caleb Monroe? She asked. Yeah. Officer Ramirez, we've been briefed on the situation. The man who tried to access your daughter left about 30 minutes ago. We have his description, and we've circulated it to all units in the area. Is my daughter okay? She's fine. Didn't even see him. The school secretary stopped him at the front desk. Caleb felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. Can I see her? Of course, but we'd like to keep a unit here for the rest of the day, just as a precaution. Whatever you need. Officer Ramirez led them inside. The school was in afternoon mode, quiet hallways, classroom doors closed, the muffled sound of teachers and kids talking. The principal met them outside Lily's classroom. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes. Mr. Monroe, she said, I'm so sorry about what happened. We take security very seriously here. I know. Thank you for protecting her. Of course. The principal looked at Marcus, at the police officers. Would you like to take Lily home early? Given the circumstances, we'd understand. Caleb thought about it. Thought about Lily's routine, how much she valued normalcy, how scared she'd been when he got arrested. Can I talk to her first? He asked. Absolutely. The principal opened the classroom door. Inside, 20 kids were sitting at tables working on some kind of art project. Lily was in the back, carefully gluing pieces of construction paper together. She looked up when the door opened. Saw Caleb. Her face brightened. Daddy! She started to get up, but her teacher, a young woman with a patient smile, gently reminded her to clean up her space first. Lily carefully put away her materials, then ran to the door. Caleb crouched down, hugged her. Hey, baby. What are you doing here? School's not over yet. I know, I just wanted to check on you. I'm okay. We're making cards for Mother's Day. Her expression fell. But I don't have a mom to give it to. Caleb's heart broke a little. You could make one for Mrs. Chen. She'd love that. Lily's face brightened again. Okay. She looked past him at Marcus and the police officers standing in the hallway. Why are the police here? They're just making sure everyone's safe. Because of the bad man? Caleb froze. What bad man? The one who came to the office. Ms. Carroll told us about it. She said a man tried to pretend to be someone's uncle, but he was lying. Lily looked up at him with those 2 knowing eyes. Was he trying to get me? There was no point lying. She was too smart for that. Yeah, baby, he was. Why? Because he's angry at me, and he's trying to scare us. Is it the same man from before? The one who got you arrested? Yeah. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, He's not very nice. Despite everything, Caleb almost laughed. No, he's not. Are we going to be okay? Yeah, we're going to be fine. Promise? Promise. Lily hugged him again, then she pulled back. Can I finish my card? You want to stay in school? Yeah, Maya and I were going to work on them together. Caleb looked at the principal. She nodded. We'll keep the doors locked. Police will be outside. She's safe here. He looked back at Lily. Okay, you can stay, but I'm picking you up right when school ends, 3 o'clock. Okay, Daddy? She hugged him one more time, then ran back to her table. Caleb stood there watching her for a moment. She was already back to work, gluing and cutting, talking to Maya about what colors to use. Normal. Just normal. He stepped back into the hallway. The principal closed the door gently. She's resilient, she said quietly. She has to be. Officer Ramirez walked him out. Marcus was waiting by the car, talking on his phone. He hung up when he saw Caleb. Lily okay? Yeah, she wanted to stay. Tough kid. She shouldn't have to be. Marcus didn't argue. They got in the car. Officer Ramirez leaned in the window. We'll have a unit here until pickup. After that, we can escort you home if you'd like. That'd be good, Caleb said. She stepped back. Marcus pulled away from the curb. They drove in silence for a while. Then Marcus said, Helena got Derek's location. Where is he? His apartment on the Upper East Side. We've got plainclothes officers watching it. The second he steps outside, they'll pick him up on the restraining order violation. And if he doesn't step outside, then eventually he'll run out of food or patience. Either way, he's done. It's just a matter of time. Caleb leaned his head against the window, watched the city slide past. How did this become my life? You tried to do the right thing. Sometimes that's all it takes. I just wanted to save a hospital. You did. You saved 3 of them. Marcus glanced at him. Derek's emails showed he was planning to sell off the real estate to developers. The hospitals would have been demolished within a year. Because of you, that's not happening. Because of Jennifer Park. Because of both of you, and Vivian, and Helena, and everyone else who decided they'd had enough of people like Derek getting away with it. Marcus's voice was firm. You started something, Caleb. Don't diminish that. They pulled up to Caleb's building. Marcus put the car in park. I'll be here until 6, he said again. You need anything, you call. Caleb nodded, got out, went back to his apartment. The afternoon crawled past. He tried to work, had some invoices to process for the printing company, but he couldn't focus. His mind kept going to Lily at school, to Derek in his apartment, to all the ways this could still go wrong. At 2:30, he left to pick up Lily. Marcus drove him. The police cruiser was still outside the school. Everything looked normal. At 3 o'clock exactly, the doors opened and kids poured out. Lily came running, backpack bouncing, holding a construction paper card covered in glitter. Look what I made, she said, shoving it at him. It was a card with "Thank you, Mrs. Chen" written in careful letters. Inside, a drawing of 3 stick figures, Lily, Mrs. Chen, and Caleb, holding hands. It's beautiful, baby. Can we give it to her now? Sure. They walked to Mrs. Chen's building. Lily ran ahead, excited. When Mrs. Chen opened the door, Lily thrust the card at her. I made this for you. Mrs. Chen took it carefully, read it, looked at the drawing. When she looked up, her eyes were wet. This is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me, she said. Really? Really? Mrs. Chen hugged her. Thank you, sweet girl. They stayed for cookies. Mrs. Chen always had cookies, and then walked home. The police escort followed at a distance. Marcus was still in his black sedan, a constant shadow. That night, Caleb made dinner. Spaghetti from a jar, garlic bread from the frozen section. Lily helped, standing on a chair to stir the sauce. Daddy? She said while they ate. Yeah? When is the bad man going to stop being bad? Caleb set down his fork. Soon, I hope. And then will things go back to normal? Yeah, then things will go back to normal. Lily nodded, twirled spaghetti on her fork. Good. I like normal. Me too, baby. After dinner, after bath time, after stories and tucking in, Caleb sat in the living room with all the lights off, just sitting there in the dark, thinking about everything that had happened in the last 2 weeks. His phone buzzed. Helena. Derek was just arrested, she said without preamble. Caleb sat up. When? 20 minutes ago, he tried to leave his building through the service entrance. Cops were waiting. He's in custody now. What's he charged with? Restraining order violation, attempted kidnapping, criminal harassment. That's just a start. The DA will add the fraud charges once their investigation is complete. Caleb let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. So it's over. The criminal part is just beginning. But the immediate threat? Yeah, that's over. Derek's not getting bail on these charges. Judge is going to see him as a flight risk given his financial resources. How long will he be in jail? Until trial. Could be months. Could be a year. Helena paused. You did it, Caleb. You and Lily are safe now. What about the hospitals? Sterling Harbor's board voted this afternoon to keep the Meridian division. They're restructuring the funding, bringing in new management, and investing in upgrades. The children's wing stays open. Everything stays open. Caleb closed his eyes. Thank you. Thank Vivian. She's the one who fought the board. I will. Get some rest. You've earned it. She hung up. Caleb sat there in the dark for a long time. Then he got up and walked to Lily's room. Opened the door quietly. She was asleep, curled up with her stuffed rabbit, breathing soft and even. Safe. He stood there watching her, thinking about Derek in a cell somewhere, thinking about the hospitals that would stay open, thinking about all the kids like Lily who would get the care they needed. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever was. But it was something. It was enough. The weeks that followed Derek's arrest moved like a slow tide coming in. Not all at once, but steady and inevitable. Caleb tried to return to normal, but normal had shifted. The printing company he worked for kept asking if he needed time off. People on the subway recognized him from the news coverage. Mrs. Chen started introducing him to her friends as the man who saved the hospitals. He didn't feel like someone who'd saved anything. He felt like someone who'd barely survived a storm and was still waiting to see what the damage looked like. 3 weeks after Derek's arrest, Helena called with news. DA's filing formal charges tomorrow, she said. Wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, securities fraud, and attempted kidnapping. They're asking for 20 years. Will they get it? Depends on the jury. But Derek's lawyers are already talking plea deal. They know they can't win at trial. Helena paused. There's something else. Vivian wants to meet with you. Why? She didn't say, but she asked specifically if you'd come to Sterling Harbor tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Caleb looked at his calendar. He had a shift at the printing company. I'll have to call in. Do it. This matters. The next morning, Caleb put on his one good shirt, not the jacket with the coffee stain, but a button-down he'd bought at a thrift store 2 years ago. Lily was at school. Marcus had stopped shadowing him a week ago, but Caleb still found himself checking over his shoulder on the subway. Sterling Harbor Capital's lobby looked the same, marble and gold and that particular silence that money made. But Gabrielle at the reception desk smiled when she saw him. Actually smiled. Mr. Monroe, she said, Ms. Hart is expecting you. I'll take you up. She came around the desk, led him to the elevator. They rode up together in silence. When the doors opened on the 37th floor, she gestured down the hall. Conference room C, third door on the right. Thank you. She nodded and stepped back into the elevator. Caleb walked down the hallway. The carpet was thick enough to swallow sound. Through glass walls, he could see people working, typing, talking, moving through their days like none of it had happened. He found conference room C. Through the glass, he could see Vivian sitting at the table. She was alone. No Marcus, no board members. Just her and a folder in front of her. He knocked. She looked up, gestured for him to enter. Caleb, she said as he sat down. Thank you for coming. Helena said you wanted to see me. I did. Vivian pushed the folder across the table. I owe you something. Caleb opened it. Inside were documents, legal papers, contracts, things he didn't understand at first glance. Then he saw the numbers. $2 million. What is this? He asked. Compensation for what you did. For exposing Derek. For saving this company from making the worst mistake in its history. Vivian's voice was steady but tired. The board approved it unanimously. Caleb stared at the numbers. $2 million. More money than he'd ever imagined having. Enough to move out of the apartment in Queens, enough to give Lily everything he'd never been able to afford. He closed the folder, pushed it back across the table. I can't take this, he said. Vivian blinked. I'm sorry? I didn't do it for money. I know that, but you deserve to be compensated. For what? Doing the right thing? Caleb shook his head. If you pay me, it changes what happened, makes it transactional, like I was just another person looking for a payout. You're not. I know I'm not. But that's what people will say. They'll say I engineered the whole thing to get rich, that I used Lily to manipulate you, that it was all a con. He met her eyes. And I don't want my daughter growing up thinking her father sold his integrity for a check. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "You're serious?" "Yeah." "You're turning down $2 million. "Yeah." She laughed. It wasn't mean or mocking. It sounded almost relieved. Everyone else in this building would take the money and run. Derek would have. Most of the board would have. Hell, I probably would have. You wouldn't. How do you know? Because you're still here. You could have settled with Derek, paid him off, made the whole thing go away quietly. But you didn't. You fought. Caleb leaned forward. We're not that different, you and me. We both grew up knowing what it feels like to have nothing. And we both decided that some things matter more than getting paid. Vivian's expression softened. What do you want then? There has to be something. Caleb thought about it. About Lily's question, are we poor? About the hospital that had taken care of her without judgment. About all the other kids who needed the same thing. The children's wing at Meridian, he said. It needs renovations, new equipment, better facilities. We're already budgeting for that. Double the budget. Make it the best children's hospital in the city, and put a scholarship fund in place for families who can't afford care. Vivian pulled out her phone, made a note. Done. What else? Jennifer Park. Give her a job. Not as an assistant. Something real. Something that uses her skills. She's already been rehired. Director of Internal Operations. She starts Monday. Good. Caleb stood up. That's all I want? Vivian stood too, extended her hand. Thank you, Caleb. He shook it. Her grip was still firm, but there was warmth in it now. Thank you for listening. Back at the beginning. Even though you didn't want to. I almost didn't. I know. If you hadn't been so stubborn, if you hadn't been smart enough to eventually see the truth, Caleb countered. Vivian smiled. It looked genuine. We make a good team. We made a good team, past tense. You don't want to stay involved? In what? In Sterling Harbor. In what we're building. I could use someone like you. Someone who actually gives a damn about doing the right thing instead of just making money. Caleb almost laughed. I'm a bookkeeper. I count receipts for a printing company. I don't belong in a place like this. That's where you're wrong. You belong here more than most of the people who work in this building. You see things clearly. You're not corrupted by the money or the power. Vivian's voice was serious. I'm offering you a job, advisory role. You'd work directly with me on strategic decisions. Help me make sure we never end up in a situation like Derek again. I don't have an MBA. I don't have business experience. You have something better. You have a moral compass that actually works. She paused. Think about it at least. The offer's open. Caleb wanted to say no immediately, wanted to go back to his small life and his quiet apartment and his daughter who needed him, but something in Vivian's expression stopped him. I'll think about it, he said. That's all I ask. They walked to the elevator together. As they waited, Vivian said, Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you bring Lily that day? To the first meeting? You must have known it would be hard on her. Caleb had thought about this question a lot over the past few weeks. Because I didn't want to lie to her. I could have left her with Mrs. Chen and told her I was at work. But then if something went wrong, if I got arrested or hurt, she'd find out I'd lied. And I never want her to think she can't trust me. It's such... Boom. He paused. My dad lied to me about everything. Where money went, why we moved so much, why we couldn't have things. And when I finally figured out the truth, that he was a drunk and a gambler who couldn't keep his life together, I stopped believing anything he said. So you brought her to show her the truth. I brought her because whatever happened, I wanted her to see that her dad tried, that he showed up, that he fought for something that mattered. Caleb's voice got quieter. Even if I failed, I wanted her to know I'd tried. The elevator arrived. They stepped in. She's lucky to have you, Vivian said. I'm lucky to have her. They rode down in silence. In the lobby, Vivian walked him to the doors. The children's wing renovation, she said. We're doing a dedication ceremony when it's finished, 6 months from now. I'd like you and Lily to be there. We'll see. That's not a no. No, it's not, Vivian smiled. Good enough. Caleb stepped through the revolving doors and back into the city. The sun was bright. The air smelled like exhaust and food trucks and possibility. His phone buzzed. A text from Lily's school. Field trip permission slip needed by Friday. Normal? Beautifully, perfectly normal. The months that followed were quieter than Caleb expected. Derek's case moved through the legal system with the speed of continental drift. Plea negotiations, evidence hearings, motions and countermotions. Helena kept Caleb updated, but mostly he tried to stay out of it. Jennifer Park called him once. She was settling into her new role at Sterling Harbor, nervous but excited. She thanked him for mentioning her to Vivian. He told her she'd earned it herself. Marcus became an unexpected friend. They'd meet for coffee sometimes, talk about nothing important. Marcus had a daughter too, college-aged now, studying pre-med in Boston. They swapped stories about raising kids alone, about the ways it broke you and remade you into something better. Vivian sent occasional emails, updates on the hospital renovations, questions about the advisory role she'd offered. Caleb kept deflecting. He wasn't ready for that. Maybe he'd never be ready. But he thought about it. 5 months after Derek's arrest, on a Saturday morning in early fall, Caleb took Lily to Meridian Hospital. Not because she was hurt, because he wanted to show her something. They walked through the main entrance, past the information desk, following the signs to the children's wing. The construction barriers were still up, but through the gaps, Caleb could see the progress. New paint, new floors, equipment being installed. A woman in scrubs saw them looking. We're not open yet, she said kindly, but we will be soon. Another month, maybe. We know, Caleb said. Just wanted to see how it's coming along. You work here? No, just someone who cares about the place. The woman smiled. Well, it's going to be beautiful. Best children's hospital in the city when we're done. After she walked away, Lily tugged Caleb's hand. Is this the hospital I went to when I broke my arm? Yeah, baby. It looks different. They're making it better. Nicer rooms, better equipment. So kids who come here get the best care possible. Lily thought about this. Because of what you did? Caleb crouched down to her level. Because of what a lot of people did. But yeah, partly because I tried to help. I'm proud of you, Daddy. His throat got tight. Thank you, sweetheart. Can we get ice cream now? He laughed. Yeah, we can get ice cream. They walked out of the hospital and down the street to a place that made their own flavors and charged too much. Lily got chocolate chip. Caleb got coffee. They sat on a bench outside, eating in the afternoon sun. Daddy? Lily said around a mouthful of ice cream. Yeah? You know how that lady was mean to you at first, at the big building? Ms. Hart. Yeah. But then she got nicer. She did. Why? Caleb thought about how to explain it. Sometimes people are mean because they're scared, or because they don't understand, or because they've been hurt before and they're protecting themselves. Was she scared of you? Not of me, but of being wrong, of trusting the wrong person, of getting hurt. He paused. When you're in charge of something big and important, it's hard to know who to trust. So sometimes you trust nobody. You push everyone away just to be safe. But that's sad. Yeah, it is. Lily licked her ice cream cone thoughtfully. I'm glad she learned to be nicer. Me too, baby. People can change, right? Even when they do bad things? Caleb thought about Derek sitting in a cell somewhere, waiting for trial. About whether people like that ever really changed or just got better at hiding who they were. Some people can, he said carefully. If they want to, if they're willing to do the work and admit they were wrong. And some people can't? Some people don't want to. They'd rather keep being who they are and blame everyone else for their problems. Lily nodded like this made sense. Then she said, I think the lady, Ms. Hart, she wanted to change. That's why she did. Yeah, I think you're right. Good. Lily finished her ice cream. Can we go to the park now? They spent the rest of the afternoon at the playground. Lily played with kids she didn't know, the way 6-year-olds did. Instant friendships that would last until someone's parents said it was time to go home. Caleb sat on a bench, watching her laugh and run and be exactly the kid she deserved to be. His phone rang. Helena. Got news, she said. Derek took a plea deal. What kind of deal? 8 years in federal prison. No parole eligibility for 5. Full restitution to Sterling Harbor. Permanent ban from serving as an officer or director of any publicly traded company. That's less than 20 years. It is, but it's still significant time, and it saves everyone the circus of a trial. Helena's voice was measured. The DA's office felt it was the best outcome. Derek cooperates with their investigation into his brother's firm. They get to use him to build cases against other people involved in the fraud. And Richard Voss? Being charged separately. His company's under federal investigation. It's going to be a bloodbath. Caleb watched Lily on the swings, pumping her legs, going higher. So it's really over. The criminal part is, there will be civil suits, shareholders suing Sterling Harbor countersuing Derek's estate, the usual mess. But for you and Lily, yeah, it's over. Good. How are you doing? It was such a simple question. Caleb didn't have a simple answer. I'm okay, he said finally. We're okay. Vivian told me you turned down the compensation. Yeah. That was stupid. Probably. Definitely. Helena paused. But I respect it. Not many people would have done the same. Not many people are stupid enough. She laughed. True. Listen, I'm closing out my files on this case. Wanted to say thank you for trusting me, for letting me help. I should be thanking you. We can both be thankful. Her voice softened. You're a good man, Caleb Monroe. Don't let this city convince you otherwise. I'll try. After she hung up, Caleb sat there for a while longer. Watching Lily, thinking about the past 6 months, about how much had changed and how much had stayed exactly the same. He still lived in the same apartment, still worked the same job, still worried about money and whether he was doing right by his daughter. But something was different. Something inside him had shifted. He'd stood up to people who had more power, more money, more of everything. And he'd won. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough. And maybe that was the point. Not winning perfectly, just winning enough. Just showing up and trying and refusing to quit even when quitting would have been easier. Daddy, Lily was calling from the top of the slide. Watch me. I'm watching, baby. She came down fast, landed with a thump, jumped up laughing, ran back to do it again. Normal, beautiful, his. 6 weeks later, on a cold Saturday in November, Caleb and Lily stood in front of Meridian Hospital's newly renovated children's wing. There was a ribbon stretched across the entrance. A crowd of people, doctors, nurses, administrators, reporters, families. And at the center, Vivian Hart in a dark coat, looking professional and nervous. She saw Caleb and Lily in the crowd, waved them forward. I saved you spots up front, she said. They worked their way through the crowd. Someone handed Lily a small bouquet of flowers. She held them carefully, looking confused and pleased. A woman at a podium started speaking, thanking donors, thanking the construction team, thanking Sterling Harbor Capital for their investment. Vivian was called up to say a few words. She talked about the importance of accessible healthcare, about Sterling Harbor's commitment to the community, about how sometimes the right thing to do was also the hardest thing to do. Then she paused and looked directly at Caleb. This renovation wouldn't have happened without someone having the courage to speak up when it mattered, she said. Someone who saw something wrong and refused to stay quiet. Someone who risked everything to protect something he believed in. She gestured toward him. Caleb Monroe couldn't be here today because he prefers to stay out of the spotlight. But his daughter Lily is here, and she's going to help us cut the ribbon. Caleb's eyes widened. Vivian had told him they were invited to the ceremony. She hadn't mentioned this part. Lily looked up at him. Me? Yeah, baby. You. Someone guided Lily to the ribbon, handed her oversized scissors. She looked tiny standing there, dwarfed by adults and cameras and attention. Vivian crouched down beside her. Ready? Lily nodded. Together they cut the ribbon. It fell away. The crowd applauded, cameras flashed, and Lily turned to look at Caleb with the biggest smile he'd ever seen. They toured the new wing afterward, bright rooms with murals painted on the walls, Animals and stars and cartoon characters, state-of-the-art equipment, a playroom filled with toys and books, a family lounge where parents could rest while their kids were being treated. In one of the hallways, there was a plaque. This wing renovated and expanded through the generous support of Sterling Harbor Capital and the community members who fought to preserve it. May it serve families with compassion and excellence for generations to come. Caleb stood there reading it, Lily's hand in his. "That's because of you," Vivian said quietly. She'd come up beside him. "It's because of a lot of people. It started with you." He didn't know what to say to that. Vivian crouched down to Lily's level. "What do you think? Is it nice?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. "It's really pretty. I wish I could break my arm again so I could stay here." Vivian laughed. "Let's hope you don't break anything, but if you ever need care, this is here for you for as long as you need it." "Thank you," Lily said solemnly. "Thank you for sharing your dad with us." After the ceremony, after the photos and handshakes and small talk, Caleb and Lily walked back to the subway. The sun was setting, painting the buildings orange and gold. "Daddy?" Lily said. "Yeah? People were wrong about you at first, right? At the big building?" "Yeah, they were. But they learned. They changed their minds." "Some of them did?" Lily thought about this for a moment, swinging their joined hands. "I think that's important, that people can be wrong about stuff, but then learn to be right." Caleb stopped walking, crouched down to look at his daughter. "What made you think of that?" "I don't know. Just seems important. Like, if people can't change their minds, then everything stays bad forever. But if they can learn, then things can get better." She tilted her head. "Right?" Out of the mouths of children came a truth so simple it hurt. "Yeah, baby," Caleb said, his voice rough. "That's exactly right." "Good." Lily hugged him. "Can we get pizza for dinner?" They got pizza, the cheap kind from the place on the corner that knew them by name. Ate it in their apartment with the radiator clanking and the neighbors arguing through the walls and everything exactly as it had always been. Except Caleb felt different, lighter somehow. After Lily was in bed, he sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and his laptop. Opened his email. Found the message from Vivian that had been sitting there for 2 weeks. Still thinking about the advisory role. No pressure, but the offer stands. "We could use someone like you." He hit reply. Typed slowly. "I'm still not sure I'm the right person for this, but I'm willing to try. Part-time to start. I need to be there for Lily." He sent it before he could second-guess himself. The response came 10 minutes later. "Part-time works. Welcome to Sterling Harbor, Caleb. We'll figure out the rest as we go." Caleb closed the laptop, walked to Lily's room, stood in the doorway watching her sleep. The world wasn't perfect. He wasn't perfect. They still lived in an apartment that was too small and too expensive. He still worried about money, still wondered if he was doing enough. But Lily was safe. The hospitals were saved. Derek was in prison, and somewhere in the city people were learning that sometimes the system worked. Sometimes speaking up mattered. Sometimes one person with enough stubbornness and heart could change things. It wasn't a fairy tale. There was no perfect ending. Just a man and his daughter, doing the best they could, making it through each day. But maybe that was enough. Maybe that was more than enough. Maybe that was everything. Caleb closed Lily's door gently and walked back to the kitchen. Outside the window, the city glittered in the dark. Millions of lights, millions of lives, everyone fighting their own battles. He'd fought his. And somehow, impossibly, he'd won. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough. He finished his tea, turned off the lights, went to bed. And for the first time in months, he slept without dreams of boardrooms or lawsuits or threats. Just darkness, just rest, just peace. In the morning, Lily would wake up and ask for pancakes. He'd make them, slightly burned like always. They'd walk to school together. He'd go to work. Life would continue in its imperfect, beautiful, ordinary way. And that would be enough. That would be everything. Because in the end, that's what courage looked like. Not grand gestures or dramatic moments, just showing up, doing the work, fighting for what mattered even when you were scared, even when you didn't know if you'd win. Just trying, just caring, just refusing to look away when looking away would have been easier. Lily had said it best. People could be wrong, but they could learn. They could change. And that possibility, that hope, was what made all of it worthwhile. Caleb Monroe had walked into Sterling Harbor Capital in a coffee-stained jacket, holding his daughter's hand, carrying an envelope that would change everything. He'd been judged, dismissed, arrested, but he hadn't quit. And in not quitting, he'd shown a room full of powerful people that power wasn't the only thing that mattered. That truth mattered, that courage mattered, that one person refusing to stay silent could shake foundations. The story would fade from the news, other scandals would take its place, the world would move on. But somewhere in Brooklyn, a children's hospital wing stood bright and new. Somewhere in the city, a little girl slept peacefully, knowing her father would be there when she woke up. Somewhere, a man who'd been broken by life had learned that broken didn't mean finished. And maybe that was the real lesson. Not that good always wins, not that justice always prevails, but that trying matters, that showing up matters, that even when you're scared and uncertain and completely out of your depth, you can still make a difference. You just have to be brave enough to try, and stubborn enough not to quit when everyone tells you to. The rest somehow works itself out. Or it doesn't. But at least you tried. And in the trying, you become someone worth being, someone your daughter can be proud of, someone you can live with when you look in the mirror, someone who knows that the measure of a person isn't their bank account or their title or their power. It's what they do when doing the right thing costs them everything. Caleb Monroe had done the right thing, and he'd do it again, every single time.